the everyday Hogwarts player. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Hagrid revealed 2. Friday afternoon, break time for potions class. Snape noticed Harry's gaze, but he didn't pay attention to the previous trolls. I heard that there are many magical creatures and even werewolves in the Forbidden Forest. Could there be a riot there? Harry thought. That's the bite mark of Cerberus, the three-headed dog. The three-headed dog's magic resistance is higher than that of the troll, and it has 3 heads. It is difficult to be confused by the magic spells or white blood. It will still recur again and will not stop until almost a month later, but this is only for wizards. If it is a muggle, it will be for a lifetime. Halloween. Harry and Ron looked at each other and said at the same time. As for Ryan's appearance, they didn't pay attention. They were accustomed to the appearance of their roommate excitedly. After dinner, I'll go to Hagrid. He is the guard of the Forbidden Forest. He must know something. Harry agreed. So, after dinner, under the dusk sky, they walked out of the castle gate and headed to Hagrid's hut. To their surprise, they saw another person in the cabin, their roommate, Ryan. Hagrid was making tea, and the door was ajar. As soon as the two entered the room, Fang couldn't wait to move closer. Harry moved flexibly and stood calmly on the other side. The result was the robe was stained with Yaya's saliva again. Hey, Harry, Ron, why did you choose this time? If Ryan hadn't come, I would have gone to patrol the Forbidden Forest. Hagrid said as he took out a small iron pan and fried sausages. Harry and Ron looked at each other and confirmed their suspicions. Hagrid, I wanted to ask the three-headed dog. Harry was interrupted mid-sentence by Hagrid, who was surprised and placed a bread heavily on the stove. Harry, you have been to the 4th floor. That old ghost Filch stopped you before. It seems that he didn't make a unilateral mistake. Hagrid used his small black beetle-like eyes to shrewdly look at Filch. The trouble they caused was connected with this incident. Professor Snape was bitten by it, Harry said, and at the same time he calmly stopped Ron, who was about to retort, and glared at him. That's the #1 secret. The three-headed Luwei doesn't know anyone else except me. Be careful of your neck being bitten off. Hagrid said angrily. Hagrid has always been a very careless guy. When it comes to magical creatures, he always underestimates their risks. But now, for the three-headed dog, even he said it was dangerous. It seemed to be really unusual. He only decides to ask Hagrid about his weaknesses in a roundabout way. Otherwise, after dealing with it, there would be no energy left to clear the remaining levels. Fluke with 3 heads? You're the only one I know. Harry asked, keenly aware that something was wrong. Yeah, it's mine. Bought it from a Greek guy I met in the hotel last year. I lent it to Dumbledore to keep. Hagrid turned the page again. Sausage sizzling on the iron pan. What? Harry and Ron asked eagerly together. Okay, don't ask any more, Hagrid said rudely. I'll say it again. That's secret #1, do you understand? Irritably, now, you 3. Ryan looked innocent and didn't ask. Listen to me, you are meddling in things that have nothing to do with you. It's dangerous. Forget about the big dog and what it's guarding. This is between Professor Dumbledore and Nico Flamel. Aha! Said Harry. So that involves Nico Flamel, doesn't it? Hagrid was furious. He was angry with himself. So this time, Hagrid rarely allowed them to eat, and angrily drove the 3 of them away. So, what's in that little bag is the magic stone. It must be. Someone is going to steal the Philosopher's Stone, and it's the same person who broke into Gringotts on me. Professor Snape must have wanted to catch the man, but the three-headed dog only recognized Hagrid, so he was bitten. On Halloween, the troll is also related to the man who broke into Gringotts. Dumbledore already has the Philosopher's Stone, so his birthday must have no bad intentions in borrowing the invisibility cloak. That's great. He is a good person. Harry walked around Ron and Ryan excitedly and said a long sentence in one breath. Paragraph words. What is the Philosopher's Stone? What is it? Is it related to Nico Flamel? Harry, when did you ever think that Dumbledore was a bad guy? Ron looked confused. Nicholas Flamel is the inventor of the Philosopher's Stone and has lived for more than 600 years. The Philosopher's Stone can transform other substances into gold and make elixirs of immortality. Harry explained, but did not continue. The invisibility cloak was told to him by Ryan without permission, and he felt that he should not tell others. What? Ron was confused by the gold and couldn't turn around for a while. I mean, that big dog must be guarding Flamel's Philosopher's Stone. I dare say Flamel asked Dumbledore to keep it for him because they were friends and he knew someone was trying to take advantage of the Philosopher's Stone. That's why he moved the Philosopher's Stone out of Gringotts. See? Harry continued to explain. A stone can turn gold and make you immortal. Ron said. No wonder there are dark wizards who dare to break into the two safest places in the world, Gringotts and Hogwarts. Who? Everyone will want it. Chapter 152 Ron's Suspicion. Time. 7 o'clock, outside the castle. Wait, Harry, although Professor Snape is very kind to you, is it possible? Ron suddenly doubted. After all, Snape has always been bad to him, in his opinion. How is that possible? Ron, are you crazy? Harry stopped walking back to the castle and turned to look at Ron. Death, listen, stop Death. Professor Snape may be a good person, but good people also have desires, especially when it comes to the Sorcerer's Stone, or he just wants to steal it, study it, and finally return it quietly. Ron vividly imitated Snape's usual speech. Tone. Come on, if you doubt Professor Snape, you might as well doubt Quirrell. Also, as for the function of my red spark, Professor Dumbledore mentioned purification. In my opinion, he must have suffered some kind of curse and was then coerced. Participate in stealing the Philosopher's Stone. That's why he forgot about Crabbe and didn't answer Professor McGonagall's question about where he was at that time. At that time, he was most likely in the forbidden area on the 4th floor. Did you notice? He was on the 5th floor at the time, and he was the fastest one. Professor Snape must have sensed something and went to the 4th floor, so he went to the 4th floor very quickly. Professor McGonagall, she is not like that. Harry guessed, while Ryan was secretly shocked that he had guessed so well. Ryan is a time traveler, and Harry Potter is a time traveler. So, Quirrell is indeed very suspicious, but why can't the person who coerced him be Snape? Quirrell was once his student. He may have mastered some secret of Quirrell, and he happened to know it again. The Philosopher's Stone cursed and coerced him. Ron still doubted Snape. Come on, Ron, I think you think Professor Snape is usually targeting you. Harry teased. Come on, it's too late. I was kicked out by Hagrid because of you. I still want to ask my mother about interesting things when she was young. Ryan said, pretending to be depressed. One day, I'll be like, he. Ron's attention was immediately amused. And Harry looked thoughtful. The next morning was bright and cold, the restaurant was filled with a tempting smell of grilled sausages, and everyone was looking forward to a wonderful Quidditch game and chatting happily. Ron took a bite of a small sausage, apparently venting his frustration at not eating Hagrid's sausage yesterday. Harry, eat it. Ron muttered with the sausage in his mouth. I don't want to eat anything, said Harry. Have some toast, Anthony coaxed. I'm not hungry. Harry felt terrible. In another hour, he will be walking onto the field. Although Quidditch is a minor problem in his eyes, he has been to the bottom of the sea and killed giant monsters alone. But the unreliable team, the keeper who never showed up, and the fear that he had smashed the sign of the son of the secret genius James Potter made him not want to eat anything. Ryan understood this very well, but if Harry's teammates were replaced by the Gryffindor team in the original world line, he would not be like this after experiencing so much. Harry, you need to maintain strong physical strength. Michael said, the seeker is always the person that the opponent should guard. Thank you, Michael, Harry said, watching as Michael slathered ketchup on his sausage. By 11 o'clock, it seemed that all the teachers and students of the school were in the stands surrounding the Quidditch pitch. Many students also brought binoculars. Seats were literally raised into the air, but it was still difficult to see the action at times. Ryan and Hermione moved to the top row, joining Ron, Neville, Anthony and his two younger brothers Terry and Michael. In order to surprise Harry, they used a sheet stained by the little mouse scabbers to draw a huge banner that said Potter must win. Terry drew an eagle with spread wings and wanted to fly. Then, Anthony, there was also a clever magic trick that made the paint on the banner shine with different colors. Not long after, Draco came with two followers and sat next to Ron. Snorted softly, indicating acceptance. Meanwhile, in the locker room, the goalkeeper finally appears, looking like a grown-up version of Dudley. Thinking of this, Harry couldn't help but feel as if his stomach was twitching. Dudley belonged to Hufflepuff, and if he failed, he would see himself embarrassed. So, Harry and the other team members changed into their sky blue Quidditch uniforms. The Hufflepuff team wore yellow clothes, without paying any attention to Roger's words. Everyone, relax in this competition. This time our opponent is Hufflepuff, and there is no chance of us losing. Harry, you have to remember your tactics. When the ball comes, hug it like a sloth and avoid it. Also, try to fly in a zigzag pattern. Harry, Roger boasted and kicked the ball. Harry's shoulders. Come on, Roger, you junior, stop being funny. If Harry zigzags, how can he grab the golden snitch? Henry looked dissatisfied. He who usually disdains participating in tactical training, this is the first time I have heard his tactics makes my lungs explode with anger. I'm the captain, Roger yelled. Before they could start arguing, the time was up. Harry was confused, he still didn't know the names of the batsman and the wicket-keeper. According to his observation, the two chasers directly expressed their dissatisfaction with Roger, while the two batsmen and the keeper were silent and looked like the world had nothing to do with me. Harry followed Roger out of the dressing room, and then walked towards the cheering stadium. However, this was just a small scene for him, but Dudley, who was sitting at the front of the game watching, made him feel a little weak in his legs. Mrs. Hokey is the referee. She stood in the middle of the field, her broom in hand, waiting for the players from both teams. Listen, I want to play fair and honestly, she said once the players gathered around her. Harry forced his eyes away from Dudley, and out of the corner of his eye he saw the banner flying high, with the words "Potter must win" shining above the crowd laugh, all worries flying away. Very good. As expected of Harry Potter, you can do it on your own terms. This is my experience. Henry, a strong and honest man with blonde hair, said in his ear. Please get on your broomsticks, Mrs. Hooch said, and blew her silver whistle as hard as she could. Harry stepped onto his Nimbus 2000. 15 flying brooms rose from the ground and soared high into the sky. The game started. Chapter 153 The Deposed Roger. Time, 11:30, on the Quidditch pitch. Wow, at the beginning, the quaffle was snatched by Roger Davis of Ravenclaw, but what was he going to do? The quaffle disappeared, and Henry of Ravenclaw behind him caught it. Ball. Lee Jordan, a friend of the Weasley twins, served as the commentator for this game. However, I found it very strange, and no one intercepted him. Why did he use this trick? Jordan. Professor McGonagall, who was watching him from the side, reminded. I'm sorry, Professor Great. Roger caught it, and then, oops, Hufflepuff goalkeeper Pete did a great job, perfect volley. Lee Jordan continued. At this time, Harry on the court was really about to collapse. Perhaps because of the relationship between the Weasley twins, Lee Jordan was worried that Harry would be under pressure as a newcomer and not cue him, but at this moment, Harry understood that he was not under pressure at all, and his collapse was entirely due to other reasons. As soon as he came on the field, he saw a golden light flashing behind a Hufflepuff batter. He was about to catch him, but Roger Davis appeared and blocked his way. Hey, Harry, you have to remember the zigzag and watch out for the bludgers. What's even more unpleasant is that in addition to Roger, there are two unknown batters in Ravenclaw, and their playing styles are simply outrageous. Originally, as a batter, you should always keep an eye on the bludgers and your partners to prevent them from being attacked. But the two of them were more like seekers with bats. They only stared at the two bludgers, actively chasing them and hitting them from time to time. Several times, both of them blocked Harry's path to the golden snitch. Now, although there was no threat of bludgers and the Hufflepuff players did not deliberately collide with Harry, his teammates did become the biggest stumbling block enemy. When Henry finally escaped the enemy's siege and passed the ball to Phoenix, he made another gesture, asking Phoenix to go up and him to catch the ball down. But in Harry's view, this was not necessary at all. Roger had already attracted the goalkeeper's attention. Phoenix had the best goal at this time, but it was superfluous and passed to Roger, who was already attracting a lot of attention. In the end, the goal definitely failed. Harry flew in a zigzag and blocked Harry again. What is Roger Davis doing? Harry Potter just almost caught the golden snitch, but Jordan was confused by Roger's operation. The Hufflepuffs on the stage shouted Roger's name so loudly that he didn't hear Jordan's question. He thought they were Ravenclaws, so he waved his hand and showed 8 teeth and a greasy smile made me not pay attention. I'm so sorry, Roger was still chattering. However, a bludger flew over, bang. Roger suddenly fell. Professor McGonagall on the stage pulled out his wand, and the grass on the ground suddenly grew wildly, forming a natural air cushion. "Hey, Dennis, you're crazy, come at me." Roger was full of energy, and he also noticed that the ball came from his teammate. "Go ahead and eat shit, Roger, I'm not going to play anymore." Dennis the batsman responded, and Harry was extremely grateful to this teammate whose name he just learned. Now he can go after the golden snitch. "Did you just go blind?" Dennis continued to yell. Just when Roger wanted to say something more, the stage boiled, and Lee Jordan's voice was muffled again. Roger turned his head and looked behind him. Mates can focus on other things. They had never cooperated with an outstanding seeker like Harry. Unexpectedly, someone locked the golden snitch's position from the very beginning on the golden snitch several times. But Dennis heard Jordan's explanation and he was closer to Jordan. Just when Harry almost caught the snitch again, but was blocked by Roger, the bludger happened to be next to him. So he struck hard at Roger, making way for Harry, and the golden snitch was caught by Harry. Ravenclaw students poured into the sand and surrounded Harry. Roger Davis came over confused and said, "Harry, you have to understand that this time it's just your good luck. We're pulling the strings. Winklaw, use tactics. Rely on wisdom, you have to learn from me. Like when I first started, I used 2 tactics and scored a goal. If it wasn't for your mistake, not using zigzag flight, I wouldn't have been attracted, and then let Hufflepuff go first point." However, Roger didn't notice the way the other students looked at him. "What did you say, Davis? In the beginning, why did we use the back pass tactic? Henry is obviously closest almost to the enemy. This is a game, not a stage. Also, when I thought you were getting better and wanted to create scoring opportunities for Phoenix, what did you do? To use Pacov's baiting technique to get Phoenix to pass the ball to you. Finally, with Harry being an excellent seeker, and Woody and Dennis keeping the bludgers out of the field, you still want Harry's slow sun flying? What if the seeker catches the golden snitch? What should we do?" The tall and thin Captain Johnny appeared and asked. "That's because Henry and Phoenix didn't cooperate. They were too slow. Aren't my tactics wonderful?" Roger said with a red face. "Have you noticed that even though Henry and Phoenix don't like you and they didn't deliberately refuse to cooperate, you treated this game as a show for yourself? Even as the acting captain, blocking the seeker's route and not taking control of the overall situation is enough. It seems that Dennis's ball hasn't woken you up yet? I don't think you have the qualifications to stay in this school team." Captain Johnny said angrily, and unknowingly, other teammates also came closer. "Roger, tactics are not necessary, victory is. This is my last advice." Captain Johnny sighed, and Roger stayed where he was. Chapter 154 Clear Rules. Embarrassing, extremely embarrassing. Roger Davis, while unreliable, did his part in making Harry the seeker. And after the game, Harry recalled the entire game and found that the other 2 batters who he initially thought were obstructions, although their behavior was unreliable and they directly blocked the bludgers out of the field, they restrained them. Hufflepuff. This tactic was also formulated by Roger after studying Hufflepuff. Harry didn't understand. That was because Harry hadn't joined the team before, and Roger looked down on positions other than chaser and seeker, so he didn't mention it. The unreliable thing about Roger was that he had too little training, which resulted in him not fully understanding Harry's strength. He also loved to show off too much and always liked to play with tactics, even to the point where he would do something extra or superfluous. And now, Harry thinks it was him who got Roger kicked off the team. Come on, Harry, Roger Davis is so unreliable. Even if the tactics and playing methods you mentioned were designed by him, it doesn't matter. He even dares to stop the seeker. And he ignored the goalkeeper. Did he design any tactics for the goalkeeper? This is all Captain Johnny's decision. It has nothing to do with you. Ron comforted Harry, who couldn't eat. After the game, Roger, after learning about Harry's performance from others, specifically apologized to Harry and accepted Captain Johnny's decision. Ryan on the side lamented that Roger was still too young. In the original world line, Captain Johnny did not withdraw early. He has been controlling Roger during this year's season, allowing him to adapt and grow. Even in the school year, he defeated the Gryffindor team without Harry, making the Letlings took advantage and won the Quidditch Cup. He did not use to cooperate with 2 good seekers and puts himself at the core. The other members of the Ravenclaw team were also an eye-opener for Ryan. Although they were not particularly good, they were very capable of execution and would hardly question the captain's operations. At most, they would complain on the field. Especially the supporting character, Dennis, was very decisive. He shut down his teammate Roger and let Harry get the golden snitch. However, now is not the time to think about this. Harry Potter happens to be in a depressed mood right now. Know the origin of your last name. Ryan's voice sounded in Harry's mind. Sure enough, this made Harry temporarily stop blaming himself and amusing his attention. It evolved from Peveril. You said before, Ryan, that I am the descendant of the third child. Harry thought. That's true, but Potter is not the descendant of Peveril. Potter evolved from a nickname. The Potterer. This nickname comes from a wizard named Stinchcombe Linford in the 12th century. I have invented the Bone Spirit and the Refreshing Potion. Harry, your potion talent may also be partly derived from him. Linford's eldest son Hadwin married a young witch named Ilanth Peveril from Godric's Hollow. She was the granddaughter of Ignatius Peveril, down from generation to generation by the eldest son of the Potter family. Ryan then thought. Who is it? I still have relatives. Then why didn't Professor Dumbledore let me be adopted by them? Harry looked puzzled. Harry, you are not the only one in the Potter family who has survived. He thought. This news is not widely known. It was more than 3 years ago. Before 1693, one branch of the Potter family immigrated to the United States. Abraham Potter was one of the descendants of this branch. American magic. After the establishment of the Congress, Abraham was recruited as one of the first 12 Aurors by Josiah Jackson, the first president of the Magic Congress. Besides, they are only Potter's descendants, not Peveril's. The invisibility cloak is too precious. Harry, you are the legitimate heir. Dumbledore must have taken this into consideration. Ryan explained in his mind. Ryan himself only found out about this news not long ago. Ryan has never understood why cannibalism among Peverils is taboo, and how this rule is determined. Before, he could understand that it was because of the last name and a specific person. After all, Smith, Longbottom, and Potter are all from a single line, and the others are not the main branch. But when he found out that Potter also had one in the United States, Ryan was a little confused, so he deliberately told Harry Potter about this. In a depressed mood, he was more easily influenced by Ryan, and Ryan took advantage of this moment to use wave. Special information lines are being dialed to check the invisible laws set by their ancestors, who may be gods. Now, he finally understood how the self in this self-killing was calculated. Born in one generation, one of them inherited part of the knowledge of making the Elder Wand, changed his surname to Smith, and has been studying alchemy to hide himself. The invisibility cloak and the resurrection stone were also inherited by the eldest son of the Potter and Gaunt families, so no matter how many Potters there are, Harry can be considered a Peveril. So did Neville. He was Peveril, not to mention Ryan himself. He was the only one in their family. Who else could he be? As for Voldemort, he is also the eldest son of the Gaunt family. Although he's of mixed blood, the magical name of Peveril is not valued here. He is the latest generation of the Gaunt family. Morphin Gaunt has no children. So Voldemort, who was still brain dead, inexplicably did not kill Morphin, avoiding the taboo of Peveril killing each other. The instability of his soul made him inexplicably make new ones. His Horcrux was rebounded by the killing curse, and he still couldn't find out that Harry was his Horcrux, even if it was close to his face or even briefly possessed. Ryan, why didn't you speak? Harry thought as he looked at Ryan, who was suddenly surprised. No, it's nothing. I was just thinking about other things. Harry shouldn't be sad anymore. Ryan thought, okay, I'll go back to the lounge first. On the side, Ron looked at his friend Harry at the table in the auditorium, first feeling uncomfortable, then surprised, pleasantly surprised, and finally confused. I almost didn't say anything, so why did Harry think about it on his own? Ron took a bite of the chicken leg in confusion. Chapter 155 Harry's Troubles. Christmas is coming. One morning in mid-December, Hogwarts School woke up from a dream and found that the surroundings were covered with several feet of snow and the lake was covered with hard ice. The Weasley twins were punished by enchanting several snowballs to chase Quirrell around and hide him on the back of his turban. After they were caught, they emphasized that it was for Professor Quirrell's benefit and they let him catch a cold so that he could rest. Then Professor Dumbledore would teach them in person. How great would that be? This made Professor McGonagall tremble with anger and gave them a much heavier punishment than the original world line. In recent times, Ryan has also stopped and is no longer preparing to cause trouble. The reason why he caused trouble was actually entirely because he had nothing that could threaten his life. With peace of mind, After this goal was suddenly achieved, he started to let himself go a little bit. Transforming the world and letting it develop with his own ideas was something he had experienced when studying He Was the Wizarding World 3 years ago. But with the discovery of the Undersea City, Moon City, he suddenly found that his crude plan was useless at all. There were other groups of wizards who had done a better job. This is why Ryan started to mess with Harry Potter, which was the best way to relieve his boredom in recent times. When Ryan was still Yi, when he read the original book, he felt that Harry, the savior, was too unworthy of the name. Now that he has solved almost all his worries, he is ready to play the same role as Dumbledore and cultivate a real savior through one event after another. The reason why I haven't bothered Harry recently is to let him rest and give him a buffer time. After all, he just finished a competition, learned about the Sorcerer's Stone, and suspected that he was in love with Quirrell. Dumbledore will tell him about the next incident. Harry arranged. Now Ryan just needs to be a spectator. Thinking of this, Ryan looked out the window of Ravenclaw Tower in boredom. Several owls flew through the windy and snowy sky to deliver the mail. After experiencing a lot of hardships, they had to regain their strength under Hagrid's care before they could continue to take off. And then, Archie. That was Neville's sneezing sound. One of the disadvantages of living in a high tower is that if you don't pay attention to pulling down the curtains and closing the windows at night, you will definitely have a runny nose the next day. And Ravenclaw's a large number of young wizards who had colds, and then drank refreshments and had steam in their heads. To be honest, it was quite interesting to watch. Ryan even had the urge to make Kate catch a cold and get steam. Unfortunately, Kate's current magic skills made her no longer as susceptible to colds as a mortal. But only Ryan had the time to make fun of these things, and the other little wizards couldn't wait for their vacation. The same is true for the little wizards in Ravenclaw. Even Roger was expelled from the Quidditch team, Slytherin defeated Gryffindor, and the Ravenclaw Quidditch Cup was suspended again. Move away from the holidays. However, as Christmas approaches, the little steam wizards disappear. In the current castle, except for the lounge and auditorium with roaring fires, there are no little wizards anywhere else. Wizards who like to hang around and chat with the portraits, unless they pass by during class. After all, the drafty corridor had become bitingly cold, and the classroom window glass was rattling with a biting cold wind. After the cold weather, the little wizards who paid attention to keeping warm did not catch a cold so much. It's so boring. Oops, why didn't Dumbledore give the invisibility cloak to Harry Potter? Let's start the show soon. Ryan thought hurriedly. It was 12:16 p.m., Monday, December 1st, in the potions classroom. The weather was very cold, and all the young wizards were leaning against the hot cauldrons, huddled in their seats, and the air they exhaled formed a cloud of white mist. Harry. Dudley started talking to Harry again for the first time. You know, they hadn't spoken for nearly 4 months. What? Back this Christmas? I will go back. My mother asked me to ask? Dudley asked. Time is indeed a bit urgent. After all, in the second week of December, the deans of each college will start to write down the list of students who will not go home for Christmas. By the third week, most teachers and students had gone back to their homes. Other students staying on campus will attend the Christmas dinner on December 12th. And this holiday is very long. It will not be until early January that other students who go home will take the Hogwarts train back to school again. As for the first grade students, they still have classes today, so those who want to go home can only wait until class is over before leaving. No, you know what you're asking. Look, Harry, Professor Snape's foot has healed, so what about the Philosopher's Stone? After class, Ron returned to the lounge and said to Harry, huddled in a corner of the lounge. You forgot what Ryan said, his injury will heal in a month. He was bitten by a 3-headed dog on October 10th, and it's already mid-December. Harry looked surprised, and, are you still doubting Professor Snape? I think Professor Quirrell is the most suspicious. He was chased all over the snow by George and Fred after a little trick. Is this the level of a professor? I checked Professor Quirrell's grades. Except for Transfiguration, which was exceeds expectations, his other subjects were all outstanding, said Harry. Okay, but I won't be leaving this Christmas. My parents are going to Romania to visit Charlie. George, Fred and I are all staying at Hogwarts. Ron frowned, then smiled brightly. It seemed that they had not remembered at all that there was a brother named Percy who was staying at school with them. Hey, you disappeared as soon as Harry returned to the lounge. I've been looking for you for a long time. Anthony, Harry's fan, appeared behind Harry with his 2 younger brothers Terry and Michael. and Harry looked helpless. Since he won the game with Hufflepuff, Anthony was a little too enthusiastic. He would bring up Quidditch every time he saw Harry, but Harry didn't want to mention it. Roger's removal from the team was still an unhealed scar for Harry. During recent training, every team member would praise him and belittle Roger when they saw him. Captain Johnny even planned to let Harry be the acting captain, and he himself would take the position of Roger's chaser. This has made Harry a little overwhelmed, which makes him no longer want to hear Quidditch-related topics in his daily life, which is why he has been avoiding Anthony recently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156: The True Function of the Invisibility Cloak. Time soon came to dinner time, and tomorrow, the 17th, the first-year students' vacation officially begins. Since they left 3 days late, the others left last Friday, 2 days over the weekend plus today, they were also lucky enough to see the Christmas version of Hogwarts. In the auditorium, Professor McGonagall and Professor Flitwick had been putting up Christmas decorations, while Hagrid kept getting closer and brought one fir tree after another. The auditorium looked beautiful and spectacular. The walls were covered with hanging ribbons of holly and mistletoe, and a dozen towering Christmas trees were erected throughout the room. Some of the trees were hung with shiny icicles, and some were lit by hundreds of candles. Professor Flitwick looked at it and thought it was not pretty enough, so he took out his wand and sprayed out a bunch of golden bubbles, which stuck to the Christmas tree. Pranino will go home again, and Kate, whose parents have never been home for thousands of years, will also go back this Christmas. Coupled with the fact that Hermione also went back for Christmas, Ryan suddenly found that there were only two male creatures, Ron and Harry, around him. There were only 3 people left in the entire bedroom, including Ryan himself. Quidditch, Quirrell's Suspect, and the Philosopher's Stone. If they didn't leave the lounge, the two of them would occupy the most comfortable armchair by the fire, sit there, eat all the food that could be poked with a baking fork, bread, pancakes, mushrooms, while reading some random books. In this atmosphere, time flew by quickly, and a week passed quickly, and Wednesday came. Christmas finally arrived. When he woke up, there were 4 gifts piled at the foot of Ryan's bed. Except for Kate and Penelope, the other 2 were from Harry and Hermione respectively. What Kate and Penelope sent were casual books from the Muggle world that Ryan must have never read, which suited his taste. Harry gave him a copy of The Crazy Magic of Strange Wizards. In his opinion, he is the kind of guy who loves to read books. But, a magic book? Harry Potter still doesn't know Ryan well enough. For Ryan now, it would be better to give him a collection of fantasy niche stories. Hermione gave him a pair of gloves. She noticed that Ryan never wore gloves, even in such a cold weather. Just as Ryan was complaining about Harry and Hermione's gifts, the 2 guys next to him yelled again. Ryan turned around and saw that it was Harry Potter who had finally received the invisibility cloak, but this time, Harry opened the paper package of the invisibility cloak first, and Ron gasped. Harry was so popular now that gifts almost piled up at his feet. On the other side, something liquid-like and silver-gray was seen sliding down to the floor, gathering into a shiny pile. It's an invisibility cloak. Before Harry could question, Ron quickly said, with a look of awe on his face, I'm sure, put it on and try it. Invisibility cloak. Harry looked at Ryan with a surprised look. Harry, try it. Ron continued to urge. Harry didn't react. He could tell from Ryan's deliberate expression that this was the invisibility cloak, the Deathly Hallows. He picked it up and saw that the whole piece of clothing was sparkling silver, completely different from what he had imagined. It felt strange in his hands, as if it was woven with water. Then, there was a piece of paper. Harry grabbed the piece of paper from the pocket of the fabric, but he didn't notice that Ron, who had been reluctant to try on Harry, had already read over. Merry Christmas. The words are written in such long thin circles, so strange. Ron read. Harry's face turned pale and he put the note into his pocket. Harry knew that ordinary invisibility cloaks were made by casting a disillusionment spell, or wearing a sleight of hand, or weaving the hair of invisible beasts. These can be invisible at first, but over time they will gradually reveal their entity. And this one was left behind by his father. Would Ron do that? Harry turned his head and looked at Ron, but luckily, from his expression, he didn't notice anything was wrong. He just said in confusion, "Harry, what's so important about this note? I've read it all." "Nothing," Harry said, holding the invisibility cloak tightly. "By the way, it's normal for Ron to not understand such high-end things," Harry thought. He was very excited. He already had the invisibility cloak, so was the resurrection stone still far away? "Have I been too slack recently?" Harry, who had been praised by various professors, still thought unconsciously. In the following time, Ron became more interested in his gift than Harry. He was extremely looking forward to getting something similar to the invisibility cloak in Harry's gift pile, but what came next made Ron very disappointed. Hagrid's flute, Hermione's chocolate frog, Anthony's music box, and all kinds of weird gifts from many enthusiastic unknown wizards took out a thick bright green hand-knitted sweater and a large box of homemade fudge. He has muttered something like it was a family sweater from his mother that every Weasley had. When Harry saw this, he put on this sweater directly, and Ron calmed down. But the next two gifts made him a little ashamed. They were gifts from two Malfoys, Draco and his father. Draco gave a model of the Golden Snitch, and Lucius Malfoy gave a small bag, but when he opened it, he found that there was a lot of space inside. "Harry, the reason why I don't give you a gift is because my mother said she would give it to you for me. This bag is very expensive, and it has a traceless stretching charm. In this way, you can hold your gifts, haha." Ron laughed dryly. Harry comforted him by saying that his thoughts were the most important thing, but it had no effect. It wasn't until Harry complained that his aunt and uncle's family didn't even give him a symbolic gift this year. In the past, they at least had his uncle's old socks as gifts. Ron came back to his senses. Harry put the gifts one by one into the backpack given to him by Lucius Malfoy, and stuffed the invisibility cloak under the quilt. After Harry and Ron left, Ryan picked up the Deathly Hallows. From Ryan's magical perspective, he seemed to not exist. This Deathly Hallows is actually not perfect as an invisibility cloak. Although the invisibility cloaks on the market will lose their magic power over time, the high-end products among them often block not only vision, but also other senses of smell and sound. And this one, let's say it's powerful, but it can't isolate the sense of smell and sound, enhances and penetrates vision, and is not high-end enough to see magic. This is not an invisibility cloak at all, and its purpose is not to make you invisible. Harry Potter guessed correctly. The purpose of this invisibility cloak is to escape death. The best way to isolate the god of death is to remain immortal. As long as you don't take it off, the person wearing it will not die due to aging. Chapter 157 Professor McGonagall's Past. No matter how beautiful the little fairy is, she still has to go to the toilet and has stinky feet. But their Christmas is often like the moon among the stars, interesting and lively. Ryan, on the other hand, was left alone in Hogwarts, staying in a dormitory with two young wizards who were almost as good as Dumbledore and Grindelwald. As a perfect dreamy handsome guy who only eats, drinks and doesn't poop, Ryan feels embarrassed. Although Ryan only needs to let go of his existence, just like when he was sorted, as long as Ryan hooked his fingers, this Christmas, Ryan will be as lively and pornographic as he wants. But as an outstanding young pioneer from the 21st century and the successor of a country wearing a red scarf, the education he received and the moral standards in his heart did not allow him to do that. So, Ryan came to the Great Hall and watched the Weasley twins who ran to the Ravenclaw table, changed into blue Weasley sweaters, wrapped their brother in the Weasley sweater and pulled him over, passing the time. "Merry Christmas." "Hey, look, Harry got a Weasley sweater too," Fred and George said respectively. "Harry's is better than both of us," Fred said, directly touching the sweater on Harry's chest. "Obviously, Mother is more careful with people who are not her own." "Hey, Ron, yours is dark purple." Fred then turned to look at his younger brother. On the other side, George complained, "Percy, our model student, after we explained the P, I am only willing to wear it because of the prefect's wishes. He also wanted to sit with the prefects today." "Christmas is a time for family reunion," Fred and George sang. However, Ryan saw that his glasses were crooked, his arms were bound by a sweater, and Percy was a little suspicious. Harry and Ron on the side also looked at each other, not knowing whether to believe this obvious lie. This statement probably needs to be enclosed in double quotes. Ryan clearly noticed that Fred and George had deliberately switched their clothes. Fred's sweater had a G on it and George had an F on it, but Ron didn't notice at all. Even Harry noticed it from the order of their words, and Percy looked at their sweaters more than once. Ryan couldn't help but wonder whether Ron might have fallen on his head when he was a child, causing his head to twitch all the time. Times don't work out. When it comes to Christmas, we can't fail to mention turkey. The banquet in front of me can be considered luxurious in Ryan's opinion. 100 plump roast turkeys, mountains of roasted meats and boiled potatoes, platters of delicious little sausages, bowls of buttered peas, plates of thick gravy and lingonberry jam. Every few steps along the dining table, there are piles of wizard packets and firecrackers waiting for you. The things in these firecrackers are very interesting. After Ryan opened the firecrackers, a hamster appeared in front of Ryan with a blue smoke that engulfed the whole person. "Oh, little thing!" Ryan exclaimed in surprise, and then took out a hamster cage made by the Lord Ryan controller from the airtime. He finally remembered Jerry, a small black cat the size of a palm, who was of the same generation as Jack. Ryan carried it away from the castle to save Dr. Hamster Wheel from his unfortunate demise. Gurgling, grunting, the sound of the motorcycle engine starting sounded continuously from the body of this dark little thing pocket and continued to sleep. Dr. Hamster Flywheel has a bright future, but his relatives may not be as lucky. The lively white mice that were jumping around in front of Harry a moment ago and coming out of firecrackers disappeared in the blink of an eye. At first glance, it seemed that Mrs. Norris had taken care of them. Ryan was kind-hearted and couldn't see this, so he didn't check their whereabouts carefully, but he was inseparable. Harry noticed this too, which put him in no mood to put on the Rear Admiral's hat that came out of a firecracker. At this banquet, let themselves go. Dumbledore did not hide it and directly changed the hat on his head into a bonnet decorated with flowers. Hagrid got drunk and got drunk. A kiss on everyone's cheek. Professor McGonagall giggled, blushing, her tall black top hat tilted to one side. McGonagall's performance reminded Ryan of the interesting information he had recently found. Professor McGonagall was actually married to Elphinstone Ellicott, her boss at the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, and had her own house in Hogsmeade, but died accidentally after being bitten by a poisonous tentacle in Elphinstone. After that, he never went back and stayed in his study on the second floor of Hogwarts Castle. What is even more surprising to Ryan is that Professor McGonagall has two younger brothers who are also wizards, as well as nephews and nieces. Fortunately, she does not have a son named Fish McGonagall. Otherwise, given the passivity of Fish Magnac Traveler, Ryan would probably be in trouble. Ryan couldn't help but feel silent for the wizard named Elphinstone. Hagrid had always been single, so he couldn't be related to Professor McGonagall. From the information Ryan found, Professor McGonagall's favorite was probably her first love, a muggle named Dougal McGregor from her home farm. However, at that time, Professor McGonagall had no choice but to reluctantly break off her engagement with her first love due to her work at the Ministry of Magic. At that time, the British wizarding world was as conservative as the United States. If a wizard wanted to marry a muggle, he would have to live in the muggle world. Then this means locking up the wand, leaving the wizarding world, and not even being able to tell your lover your identity as a wizard, otherwise you will violate the International Statute of Secrecy, unless they give birth to a little wizard. Fortunately, in the UK, this is only for employees of the Ministry of Magic. If they are discovered, they will lose their jobs in the Ministry of Magic. As long as other wizards don't care about ends, the above rules are the same as nothing. You can even convince your lover to go to the magical world with you without even being fined. It was after Mag's breakup that Elphinstone launched a non-stop proposal to Mag. Professor McGonagall always refused. It was not until one day that Professor McGonagall received news of the death of her first love that Professor McGonagall accepted the proposal. After getting married, Professor McGonagall also kept her surname for the first time and did not choose to have the same surname as her husband. This was unbelievable in the wizarding world at the time, especially when McGonagall came from Professor McGonagall's muggle father. Surname. Poor Elphinstone, Ryan thought as he took a sip of pumpkin juice. Chapter 158 Harry was planned. The wizarding world, or rather the UK, also has customs similar to those in China. In Ryan's previous life, when he was still in the Book of Changes, he vaguely remembered that his parents would hide coins in dumplings when he was a child, and eating them would represent good luck. After Ryan denounced Professor McGonagall's gossip, the banquet has now reached dessert time, and the most eye-catching one is undoubtedly the fiery red Christmas pudding. Percy was lucky enough to eat a crescent-shaped piece of silver wrapped in the pudding. But he didn't know it yet. He kept talking about it and almost broke his teeth. He was aroused by homesickness and kept eating pudding without eating anything. This was what Ryan thought. The most cost-effective and attractive item in this Christmas party is undoubtedly the colorful firecrackers. It's not calculated on a per-person basis, you just have to think about it and you can handle it, and you can open as much as you want with small things worth no more than 2 gold galleons, which was different after Ryan opened the hamster and stopped. Infected by Ron's wild firecracker behavior, Harry also put aside his longing for the guinea pig he fired and started firecrackers with Ron. Harry even offered a set of wizard chess, but Harry was not very happy. Now he had no reason to refuse to play chess with Ron. However, there was something in these firecrackers that surprised Ryan, a Doraemon comic. "Damn it, I'll raise the price when I get back and sell it to 3 galleons." Ryan thought speechlessly. Cry-finders are indeed bad guys. Harry and Ron were going back to the lounge to read, but the Weasley twins and Percy held them back and had a snowball fight on the playground and had fun all afternoon. The good study time was delayed like this. Even when their clothes were wet, they did not go back to the lounge and sat on the floor next to the stove in the auditorium, as if they wanted to stay here until eternity. Harry was pulled by Ron to play wizard chess, while Percy was making crazy ideas, but Ron still won. Just when Ron wanted to continue, Harry finally showed the intelligence of Ravenclaw, changed the subject, and asked Percy about potions, Ron's most hated class, and Percy also explained with a serious face. The time soon came for dinner, but compared to lunch, it was a bit simple. There were only some drinks, accompanied by tea consisting of turkey sandwiches, toast, wine-soaked jam pudding and Christmas cake. After the meal, the Weasley twins seemed to be fulfilling the promise of staying together as a family at Christmas. They snatched Percy's prefect badge and ran around in the hall. Percy never seemed to be able to catch at them. This also made Ron and Harry, who had eaten and drank enough and wanted to return to the Ravenclaw Tower lounge, to stop. It was the happiest Christmas in Harry's life, as if he had a real family and brothers, but he still refused for some reason. Only Ryan knows what this is for. Sure enough, after Ryan pretended to sleep and Ron fell asleep as soon as he pulled down the bed curtains, there was movement from Harry Potter's bed. Different from the original world line, this time he did not put the invisibility cloak under the bed and light. Therefore, from Ryan's perspective, Harry's curtains bulged out of thin air and then opened. Only the concave points on the bed could prove the presence of a person there. The invisible man remained motionless for a few seconds, as if checking something. Then the curtains of Harry's bed returned to their original state, and the shoes beside the bed suddenly disappeared in the air. He was like a ghost, and Jerry sat obediently on his shoulders, as if glued to him. At the same time, in the principal's office, Dumbledore, who was still working, smiled slightly, as if he suddenly discovered something. The castle came alive, and its magic filled with devilish love was like vines, crawling all over the castle. Filch suddenly turned his head subconsciously and walked towards the 6th floor. Ryan frowned, then smiled slightly. All day long, there was always one thing lingering in Harry's mind. Dumbledore handed his father's invisibility cloak and the Deathly Hallows to himself, with a message to use them well. Yes, use it well, just yourself. His father's invisibility cloak, he felt at this time, for the first time, he wanted to use it alone, and he didn't want to alert even Ryan, who knew everything, including his best friend Ron saw moonlight and black shadows. It was a very strange feeling. The entire Hogwarts was completely open to him. Wearing this invisibility cloak, he could go anywhere. Anywhere, Filch would never know. He tiptoed out of the bedroom, walked down the stairs, walked through the common room, and opened the door to the common room his breath and leaned against the wall. It's Filch. He seemed to have discovered something. His furious light eyes looked everywhere, even through Harry's body. Then, his eyes stayed on the footprints in the corridor for half a second. Damn little devil, I patrolled this 6th floor several times out of boredom. There must be someone here. So, Harry had to prepare to run to the lounge, but for some reason, Filch, who had just left, appeared again. Professor, you said that if someone is wandering around at night, report to you immediately. Someone was on the 6th floor just now, and Mrs. Norris reminded me that there was someone here just now, but I couldn't see it. I suspect it was a certain Ravenclaw. Cry-finders usually just run away or make damn noise. Filch said to Snape politely. Ravenclaw? Then we just need to block the way to the lounge. Snapper ordered Filch in a long voice. At the same time, from an angle that Harry couldn't see, Snape seemed to have remembered some unpleasant memory, and his mouth was slightly pursed unconsciously. Combined with her princess haircut, Ryan found it particularly funny. Ryan waved his wand and created a photo on the spot of what Snape looked like at this moment. "Well, I'll give it to Snape tomorrow as his beloved Christmas gift," Ryan said with a smile. And Harry's face suddenly lost all color. Wherever he was, Filch must have known a shortcut, and his slimy, greasy voice was getting closer, and there was no way out. He could only step back step by step, trying not to make a sound. There was a door on the left that was opened a crack for some reason. He took a deep breath and squeezed in sideways, being careful not to touch the door. Thank God he finally made it into the room. They noticed nothing and walked over, Harry leaning against the wall and taking a deep breath. Dumbledore and Ryan both showed long-lost smiles. Chapter 159 Snape's Anger. Time, 12 o'clock in the evening, in an empty classroom on the 6th floor. Harry heard the footsteps of Snape and Filch slowly retreating, and he had time to pay attention to the scene in the room where he was hiding temporarily because there was no place to put them. It was a very imposing mirror, reaching all the way to the ceiling, with an ornate golden frame and supported by two claw-shaped feet. A line of words is engraved on the top, Wangitun des Hongsen Nishi Erlian Denishi Butachuzeo Wo. Now that Filch and Snape's voices were no longer audible, Harry's nervousness relaxed. He slowly approached the mirror to take a look at his own image. After all, if nothing unexpected happens, he will stay here tonight until morning. Because Snape and Filch would definitely stare at the path from the 6th floor to Ravenclaw Tower. Thinking of this, Harry couldn't help but feel his stomach churn a little, and he secretly felt miserable. Now, he is probably going to catch a cold. But soon, another phenomenon diverted Harry's attention. The mirror was empty. He took a few steps closer and stood in front of the mirror. From Brian's perspective, Harry Potter was surprised at first and suddenly turned his head to look behind him. He remained pale and frightened for some time, and groped backwards with his hands. Ryan had read the original book and naturally knew what Harry saw, but Dumbledore, who had also run to the corner of the room, was a little confused. He looked confused, as if he thought the mirror was broken or that a boggart was living in it. But soon, his doubts disappeared. That's because Harry finally realized something. He looked at the beautiful woman in the mirror. She had dark red hair, and her eyes were exactly like Harry's, and then he found that she was crying. She was smiling and crying at the same time. The tall, thin man with dark hair standing next to her put his arms around her. He understood what was in Harry's eyes now and how eager he was. "Mum," Harry whispered. "Dad." From Brian's perspective, Harry slowly turned his head and looked at other parts of the mirror. Ryan understood that this was Harry observing the rest of his family. Dumbledore wiped his eyes and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, but Dumbledore was a little confused. Harry's perspective. But except for the correct appearance of James and Lily, the appearance of James' parents and others are not correct. They all have the same green eyes and nose as Harry. One little old man even has the same appearance. He has the same uneven knees as Harry. How should I put it? Except for the green eyes and the inaccurate appearance of James' mother, everything else was similar, which made Dumbledore gradually show a puzzled expression. Dumbledore's age? Ryan can actually guess what Dumbledore is confused about. In the Potter family, only Lily has green eyes. Harry still had the memories of Lily and James in his subconscious, so their appearance was not distorted. As for Harry's grandparents, Harry had no impression of them. Fleamont Potter was Harry's grandfather. They gave birth to James very late. Muggle-born girl, they both died of dragon pox before Harry was born. This also made Harry just make up what his grandparents looked like through imagination. His grandfather had an inseparable assumption because all the men in the Potter family looked the same. Dumbledore didn't wonder for long, his attention was entirely focused on Harry. Harry kept holding on to the mirror, looking at it, and then fell asleep wrapped in the invisibility cloak around Harry. Ryan could see that the quilt was set to disappear when Harry woke up. It's really brilliant magic, amazing. Seeing that Harry had fallen asleep, Ryan returned to the bedroom and began to play with the cat for a long time. On the other side, another heated conversation took place in the principal's office. First-year Ravenclaws who remain in school. Dumbledore, you know what I'm talking about. Snape's ginger face was filled with long-lost anger. Quiet. Dumbledore waved his wand, and the sounds between them were trapped in the small space. Phineas Nigellus Black was almost woken up, who smacked his mouth. Severus, you have to understand, this is all for Harry's good. The greatest white wizard explained patiently. Aha. I knew it was him. I was so confused. How could I have thought that boy would be like his mother? Like his father, he relied on that invisibility trick to wander around all day and night, fooling around. In a castle with Quirrell, a dark wizard. Snape paced around Dumbledore. By the way, that invisibility cloak is that old thing from Potter, right? Why, you repaired it again this Christmas and gave it to that boy. I knew it was all your fault. Why? Don't you kick Quirrell out? Why? When that boy is assigned to Ravenclaw, he doesn't like to go out, and loves to study. Do you give him the invisibility cloak? I guess you must have something said else. This is him. It's my father's, let him use it well. Snape changed his tone and found an excuse for his beloved Harry, and he guessed it by coincidence. Severus, you guess it right. What, of the letter I sent to Harry? Dumbledore tomato wisecrack? Severus, what's wrong with you? Got to go. I'm going to the 6th floor to get rid of Filch. Snape said in a low voice, suppressing his anger. Footsteps. Thanks to Taishi Yumexu for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the subscription and recommendation. Chapter 160 Harry and Ron's Tryst. The next day, early in the morning, Harry was surprised. He had already prepared to catch a cold. However, his body was still warm, and he didn't even feel panic at all. He looked at the invisibility cloak he was still wearing. Is that you? Ravenclaw staying at the school. At this time, the 6th floor was deserted and silent. Harry held his breath and slowly came to the spiral staircase. He climbed and climbed until he was almost sweating. The wooden door with the bronze eagle ring finally appeared in front of him, cloaked wizard robe with a bitter look on his face. He was separated from the surrounding environment. It was Snape. I have used the disillusionment charm and it has been here all the time, waiting for Harry's safe return. I saw Snape smiling, as if he was laughing. This boy is indeed not like James. If he were James, he would have taken the risk and come back. Harry Potter, no, Harry Evans is the continuation of Lily Cloak, and strode away on the other side. Harry happened to bump into Ron, who was about to go out to look for him. Think about it, when you were in school, your brother was inseparable from the same dormitory. When you had to wait for each other even when you got up, when he suddenly disappeared and there was no warmth left in the bed when you touched it, how anxious you would be. And now Ron is like this. After accompanying Harry to put back the invisibility cloak, Ron scolded Harry for a while in the auditorium. You should wake me up so that I can see your family. You can come tonight. I want to go too. I want you to look at the mirror. Harry said expectantly, while playing with the porridge without touching it at all. Come on, you'd better not go tonight, in case Filch and Snape are there to guard. Ron actually used his brain for the first time, which surprised Ryan, who was petting the cat beside him. But Harry couldn't care less about being surprised. He interrupted Ron's speech. We will go there directly after dinner and not go back to the lounge. Okay, I really want to see your parents. Ron said again, but his tone was like a daughter-in-law who wants to come to meet her future parents-in-law. This made Ryan very upset, but Harry had long been used to it. I also want to see your whole family, see the Weasley family. You can point out your other brothers and all your relatives to me. Harry's eyes were shining. You can see them at any time, Ron said inexplicably. To be honest, he was sorted into Ravenclaw at first not only to be with Harry, but also because he had a certain affection for Hermione for the sake of. But now, he had completely forgotten about Hermione and only had eyes for Harry. No, I have extended an invitation to Harry eagerly. Come to our house this summer vacation. However, only dead people may appear in the mirror. Might as well eat some bacon. Ron said carefully. Ryan couldn't help but roll his eyes. Ron Weasley really has the ability to read the air flexibly. When he is not interested, no matter how obvious you are, he won't notice. For example, when he asked Harry football stuff. And when he is interested or full, he is extra attentive and his IQ goes up. However, these are not the main reasons why Ryan rolled his eyes. Ryan had already let go of his presence a little bit. He was just trying to make Ron worry about his scabbers and Harry afraid. Harry hated cats, especially Jerry. He could sense the danger from it. As for why Harry didn't hate Crookshanks in the original world line, it was just because he was too ugly, not like a cat, and later helped Sirius, and until now, they only had eyes for each other, not paying any attention to Ryan and the kitten Jerry. This made Ryan bored as he fed Jerry eggs and enjoyed the pleasure of having his fingertips licked. Ryan, is this Jerry? Harry was persuaded by Ron to eat and suddenly discovered it. Harry, Merlin's beard. Ryan, where did you get the cat? Ron thought of Scabbers as soon as he saw Jerry. It doesn't eat mice. Harry, you remember his name. Ron, Jerry is always here, but he is still a baby and always falls asleep in my pocket. As for whether to eat mice or not, look, is the hamster I drew before still there? Ryan said to the two of them respectively. Of course I remember. Harry reluctantly replied. After becoming a wizard and discovering that he was indeed extraordinary, he doubted that Jerry must have the blood of some dangerous magical creature. Based on the way he saw Jerry with a sense of danger who was worried about his mouse, Ryan finally smiled happily. The time was 9:35, which was still very early before the curfew time of 10 o'clock. Harry and Ron looked guilty and told Ryan that they were going to Gryffindor Tower to live with Ron's brother. Ryan acted as if he didn't know what they were going to do, and watched them pick up the bag given by Lucius Malfoy and put the quilt inside. Because this time the Mirror of Erised was not placed on the route out of the library like the original world line, but was closer to Ravenclaw Tower. In addition, Harry stayed there until he woke up in the morning, so he had a clear view of the location. This time, Harry and Ron wore the invisibility cloak and quickly found the room where the magic mirror was placed. It's here, yes. They pushed open the door. Harry took off his invisibility cloak from his shoulders, dropped his bag on the ground, and ran to the mirror. Looking greedily at everything in the mirror, he was so happy that his mouth was almost crooked in a smile. Ron carefully blocked the door, picked up the bag on the side, took out the quilt from inside, and wrapped it around himself. I'm freezing, Ron said people. Harry was eager to show his family to his friends. I can only see you. Ron emphasized again. If he hadn't known what kind of person Harry was, he would probably have thought that Harry was making fun of him. Take a good look, come here, stand in my position. Harry pulled Ron over and said angrily. Chapter 161 Dr. Hamster Flywheel. Time, 9:55. Ryan disappeared into the abandoned classroom on the 6th floor, looking at the two people who were headless in front of him. After Ron stood in the Mirror of Erised, Harry's expression suddenly changed. He eagerly tried to push Ron away, but Ron's soul seemed to be rooted in place and motionless. Ron, get out of the way, my parents are missing. Harry said. Look, this is me. Ron muttered to himself in a magical trance, as if Harry's push and shouts didn't exist at all. But yes, Ron's current strength is 7 according to the panel. He is only 11 years old, which is close to the limit of 10 for adults and normal wizards, and Harry's strength is only 4. After all this time, even in Hogwarts, his strength still has not improved. No, maybe it was because of being at Hogwarts that he was like that. After all, he didn't work like a house elf anymore, and even though he was well fed, Harry had admitted that at the Dursleys, they just never let him eat enough. And the standard of overfullness should actually be regarded as a normal person's food intake, not counting Dudley's weight loss later. After all, Vernon Dursley was also fat, as was Dudley, and so was their Aunt Marge. So Petunia probably tied a lot, and in their eyes, it was probably not too much. On the other side, when Harry was panting and taking a rest, Ron seemed to have come back to his senses. He left the quilt on his body, put on various postures that he thought were handsome, and even spun around in circles. Can you see your family gathered around you? Harry asked, holding back a laugh. No, it's just me, but it's different from now. I seem a little older. I'm still the president of the Boys' Student Union. Ron smoothed his hair, trying to make it straighter and more in line with his identity. But Ron smoothed his hair, trying to make it straighter and more in line with his identity, was still dissatisfied, and even wanted to wet his hands with saliva and style his hair, but perhaps because of Harry's presence, he gave up. What? Harry was surprised and his jaw dropped. I'm wearing Bill's old badge. I'm also holding the Academy Cup and the Quidditch Cup in my hand. I'm still the captain of the Quidditch team. Ron said excitedly, holding up the invisible trophy. He reluctantly turned his head to Harry. Tell me, does this mirror predict the future? Is it possible? Everyone in my family is dead. Let me see again. Harry denied, and wanted to push Ron away, but whispered to himself, wait, this is not impossible resurrection stone. Ryan quickly waved his wand and tampered with Harry's next words. After all, Dumbledore couldn't let Dumbledore know that Harry knew about the Deathly Hallows yet. But then he thought that he was just superfluous. Dumbledore shouldn't be listening now, or he can only monitor the screen. Ryan made a contract about the Deathly Hallows in Atlantis. If a third person could hear it, Harry was speaking in a low voice and Ron couldn't hear it. It would be impossible for Harry to say the word resurrection stone. But Ron's behavior this time was different from the original world line. Since they would stay all night this time, Ron did not compete with Harry thing. All night long, then. I'll go to sleep first. Wake me up when you're about to sleep, and I'll appreciate my future heroic appearance. Ron found a corner, wrapped himself in a quilt and fell asleep. It's also ridiculous. Ron always falls asleep, no matter where he is. Harry acknowledged, looked at the mirror again, and rubbed it like a man possessed. Ryan appeared outside the door, and the house elf Jack also appeared and took over the black cat Jerry. Ryan was happily here for a pet ritual. Jerry was born that way, and Dr. Hamster Wheel should be the same as Jerry. Before designing the moon's phantom, Ryan thought about whether he should destroy the Horcrux himself after he reached level 7 of fearlessness, that is, a wizard known as a god. But he thought that in this world, even a piece of toilet paper has its own use, so it would be a pity to destroy the Horcrux just like that. Thus, Jerry, the spirit of fierce fire, was born to be more similar to a phoenix, but the Horcrux is the food for its growth. Without the evil wizard soul or the feeding of Horcruxes, it would only remain the size of a palm. As for today's Dr. Hamster Flywheel, Ryan is going to adopt another plan. This one is inspired by Dementors. After going through the ritual, Dr. Hamster Flywheel will have the ability to absorb the complex emotions of wizards. With it by his side, he will not think too much. Zai thought, losing focus in this way, it will also have a long life. The most painful thing about raising a pet is separation, and since Ryan has the ability, he must put an end to this. Then, Dr. Hamster Flywheel suddenly fell asleep, and in his dream, azure runes continued to flow out of Ryan's wand. Time passed quickly and it was the next day. Ryan, who returned to the Hogwarts dormitory, found that Harry and Ron had not returned yet. After thinking about it for a long time, Harry had already fallen asleep, while Ron looked like he had just woken up, constantly changing his pose in front of the mirror of Eris, his fiery red hair shining with a trace of water. It wasn't until nearly 10 o'clock that Harry woke up, packed up his things with Ron, and looked like he had just gone to the Great Hall to finish breakfast and meet in the lounge armchairs, eating bread, pancakes, and mushrooms poked with toasting forks, while chatting. Want to play chess? Why don't we go down and see Hagrid? I know what you are thinking, Harry. You are thinking about that mirror. Don't go there again tonight. Ron asked Harry 3 times, but received a negative answer. Now Ron has finished enjoying himself and has fallen into a state similar to Sage Mode. He looks like he is not interested in the magic mirror, completely forgetting how obsessed he is. Why? Harry asked, still wanting to meet his family. Okay, I'll be honest. My neck feels like it's going to be stiff. The ground is too hard. I want to sleep on the bed. Ron said honestly. Come on, we don't have to stay there until dawn. Counting today, it's the 3rd day. Professor Filch and Snape won't block the door. It's too dangerous and my waist can't bear it. I won't go tonight. I'll accompany you tomorrow. Ron thought about it again and again, but refused. Chapter 162 Dumbledore's Plan. My name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Everyone else calls me Albus Dumbledore, Percival after my father, Wulfric, and Brian after my ancestor. However, my full name is known to only my brother Albus Ford and that other person in the world. The others at most know my middle name as Percival. Recently, the boy in the prophecy finally came to Hogwarts. He was kind, pure, and even smart. He went to Ravenclaw instead of Slytherin, which was chosen by the Tom potential in him. Great, that means I made the right choice. Before I knew he was a living Horcrux, I had already decided that the boy would be raised by Lily's relatives. Only under the cultivation of Lily's love spell could he truly become a prophecy star. And with the help of Mrs. Fig, I know everything about Harry's upbringing and everything about him. I have hesitated many times whether my decision was correct, and the other person in my heart was even happy about it. The accumulation of negative magic power would transform the little wizard into another powerful magical creature, Obscurus. And Harry, under the protection of Lily's spell, will not develop in the direction of Obscurus, but will only increase his potential. Only in this way can he be regarded as the true son of prophecy. If I fail, I will be the one to defeat Tom. When I discovered my dirty thoughts, I was even ready to convince myself to adopt Harry. But at this time, I suddenly discovered that Harry was a Horcrux. Fortunately, thanks to Lily's spell, that part of Tom had been digested and became just another part of Harry, But this meant that Harry's death was the best way to truly kill Voldemort. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to let go of the horrible idea of adopting Harry. Although there are many smart, wise wizards who think that I am great, selfless, and a successful shining person, but I understand that I am a failure and I am incapable of cultivating a sound and happy soul. And, if Harry was really with me, could I really suppress the thought of killing Harry? I am not a noble person, and that terrible thought flashed through me when I discovered Harry's identity. Just like I don't dare to touch power, I don't dare to touch Harry. What's more, at that time, I had unrealistic thoughts about the existence of the invisibility cloak. If I collected all the Deathly Hallows, then, even now, I feel scared for who I was at that time. Harry enrolled in Ravenclaw, along with 2 other Peverell descendants, Ryan and Neville. And they are both children in the prophecy. It's just that Harry was marked by Tom, and Harry is more. Wait, if this means that Harry's not necessary, I can? It's so disgusting, me. Dudley also became a wizard, fulfilling Petunia's original wish to become a wizard. However, this made me discover that there was a dark wizard hiding behind the scenes who had ill intentions towards Harry. Petunia and her family also suffered bad consequences because of my decision to adopt Harry. How selfish am I, for the greatest good? I've really never changed. Tom also entered the school and possessed the back of the head of Quirrell, the defense against the dark arts professor. Really, does he still hold grudges against me for rejecting him as the defense against the dark arts professor? Tom's existence personally, or explicitly refused, I would no longer be able to separate Tom from him without guaranteeing Quirrell's life. Furthermore, after he was knocked down by the power of Harry's love spell, he clearly could have approached me to solve the problem, but he refused and even deliberately avoided me, and sure enough, Tom was quickly hooked. The reason why I chose this year is, firstly, because Nick has lived enough recently, just right. Secondly, I want to fish Tom out of the Albanian forest, and I want to confirm one thing, the most important point, whether Tom knows that Harry's is Horcrux. This is the most crucial part of the plan I came up with to save Harry's life. However, Quirrell, or rather Tom, has never attacked Harry. According to Tom's character, he would not do this. Could it be that he knows Harry's identity? Lucius's visit also made me discover that Tom didn't care about his Horcruxes. Then, my worst fears came true. Tom had not just one Horcrux, but many. I can't let Harry stay in peace anymore. In order to save his life in the future, I must take action. Floor news recently came from Mongdons that Quirrell had purchased dragon eggs and was trying to hide his identity. Tom, he still remembers the hobbies of his junior brother Hagrid. This is an obvious sign that with Rubius's character, Tom will definitely get the secret of the 3-headed dog Luai in the end. Then, the next step is to create an opportunity for Tom to meet Harry face to face to see if Tom really knows. In school, Tom didn't dare to make mistakes. The only place where he dared to be arrogant was in the Forbidden Forest. But for some reason, the price of potions has become much cheaper recently. This makes Quirrell still have no intention of leaving for the Forbidden Forest, even though it is almost Christmas. It seems that I should suppress my salary for these few weeks and pay it back later, but by that time, Quirrell should have been arrested, and the money will be saved. The reason was to use Dudley's crushed broomstick, saying it was to replace the teaching aid for flying lessons. You also need to contact Fudge and ask him to check the price and quantity of the potions. I will use Severus as an excuse for the reason. He said that based on his expertise, he felt that the quality of these cheap potions was fishy. With this two-pronged approach, Quirrell could only go to the Forbidden Forest to purchase potion materials. Then the only problem next is how to let Harry enter the Forbidden Forest without making any mistakes around at night. By the way, I will let him come into contact with the Mirror of Erised again to know his true heart. After this period of time, will he still be as pure as before? The plan went very smoothly. As expected, Harry went on a night swim as soon as he got the invisibility cloak, and he also successfully came into contact with a magic mirror. But at this time, seeing Harry's desire, I softened my heart. Is it really appropriate to use this excuse to let Harry go to the Forbidden Forest? Forget it. After Rubius gets the dragon egg, he will be discovered by Harry sooner or later because of this matter. In the end, Harry will also help Hagrid with his character, and finally the incident will happen. Then just wait and give Harry some time to spend with his family. In the night, Dumbledore stood behind Harry, looking at Harry, who is crazy about his family, in the mirror, and thought. Here, Dumbledore did not expect that Quirrell would actually suck the blood of the unicorn and bear the curse. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Death? It was the third night after Christmas, and Harry was sitting on the floor in front of the mirror in the abandoned classroom on the 6th floor. "So, you're here again, Harry." Dumbledore revealed himself inside. As for Harry, after hearing Dumbledore's words, he felt like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. This surprised Ryan, who was observing everything in the bedroom. That human hair would really stand up. I didn't see you, sir," Harry stammered. "It's strange that you have become myopic after turning invisible," Dumbledore said with a smile, and Harry, who had not lost his ability to observe words and emotions, noticed Dumbledore's attitude and breathed a sigh of relief. Her hair became softer again, and the goosebumps on her body disappeared. Can this magic mirror see the future? Mirror was related to Dumbledore. Knowing the existence of the Resurrection Stone, he couldn't help asking about his truest desire. "Harry, what is lost cannot be restored. Beautiful flowers will bloom, but one day they will wither. Living creatures in this world are just travelers for a moment. Harry, don't be sad for your dead relatives. One day, we will go there too. Death is just another great adventure," Dumbledore said seriously. "No, these are just cowardly remarks. Magic is a miracle and the key to changing the laws of the world," Harry said. At this moment, he forgot that the person in front of him was Dumbledore. He only knew that this person was denying him, wanting him to obey and accept the abominable existence that his family cannot return to. Death is not the end of everything, it is just a change. Life, it's just as short as the blink of an eye. In such a short time, people are born, laugh, cry, fight, get hurt, rejoice, be sad, hurt, hating someone, falling in love with someone. These are all momentary encounters. After all, you will fall into the eternal sleep of death," Dumbledore said, and Ryan discovered that the Elder Wand in Dumbledore's hand was glowing slightly in a way that ordinary people could not see, and a magnificent and great will was affecting him. Is it the god of death? Even Dumbledore himself didn't notice it. This was the truth about Niccolo Flamel's acceptance of death, and it him. The substance of the Philosopher's Stone, and the immortality it achieves, are not what Ryan's previous life Harry Potter fan novel said, just immortality, but will continue to age, and some even say that this is at the expense of reducing one's own magical abilities affected. More similar to the golden elixir in the soul in fantasy novels. As long as it is in the hands of a wizard, he is indestructible and can create immortal tools a youthful appearance. This is already close to the most perfect form of immortality, and the so-called boredom of life is even more nonsense. The world is developing rapidly, and it is not at this point in time that we are really tired of life. The so-called twilight thought of the immortals assumed by those in my previous life, and the idea that immortality is painful, is just the same as saying sour grapes when you can't eat them. Immortality is the largest collection of desires in the world, and everything else is included in it. Well, the specific function of this magic mirror is, Harry said. He quickly came to his senses and realized that this mirror probably did not have the ability to predict the future. In addition, he felt that the current principle was a bit strange, so he returned. "Let's get to the very beginning of the topic. Harry, look at the top of the mirror." Dumbledore came back to his senses, as if the previous paragraph was not said by him. "Erased straw eroid ubecafroid on wosi. It doesn't make sense at all." Harry frowned and read. "If you put it backwards, it would be I show not your face but your heart's desire." Dumbledore explained, "Its name is also the Mirror of Erased. Erased means desire. Now, I guess you already know its magic." "He could see my inner desires," Harry said. "And made your friend Ron see himself becoming head boy," Dumbledore said playfully. "How do you know?" Harry looked surprised. "I don't have to have an invisibility cloak to be invisible," Dumbledore said gently, and Ryan couldn't help but curl his lips. "Mirror, Harry, you and your friend Ron stayed here all night yesterday, and my knees still hurt." Dumbledore rubbed his knees. "Sir, are you just standing here and costing us the night?" Harry felt. Dumbledore shamelessly acknowledged and sat with him in the principal's office. It was almost the same, Dumbledore thought. "Harry, you have to understand that this mirror can neither teach us nor tell us the truth. It will only make you waste your time." If your friend Ron really may become the student's body president in the future, but if he spends a lot of time on this, then the bright future he should have will never be realized. Dumbledore said earnestly. So, what about my dream, or my desire? Harry thought of his family again. Harry, it's a good idea to hold on to a dream, but beyond a certain point, holding on to a dream becomes useless and even dangerous. When you hold on to a dream that can never come true, or a dream that shouldn't come true, life will continue to disappear. And what your heart desires most is what cannot be achieved. Although it is very unfortunate to lose your family, staring at what you can never have will only bring harm to you. Dumbledore paused, as if thought of myself. The mirror will be moved to a new place tomorrow. Harry, I ask you not to look for it again. If you happen to see it one day, you must be mentally prepared. Sleep. Dumbledore then said to Harry. Sir, Professor Dumbledore, can I ask you a question? After Harry suppressed his thoughts, curiosity rose in his heart. It goes without saying that you just did that. Dumbledore smiled, but you can ask me one more question. What did you see when you looked in the magic mirror? Harry asked. I saw myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. You can never have enough socks, said Dumbledore. Christmas came and went without me receiving a pair of socks. People insisted on sending me books. Harry's eyes widened before I knew it. It has been on the shelves for almost a month. There is no inside information here. Thank you all for your support. This book will not have a bad ending, nor will it continue like this until the 7th grade. Voldemort will be killed, and no innocent people will be injured or killed. This book will not be poisonous or have a tragic ending. Thanks also to classmate 201908015374469 and classmate Yuchi Jin for their monthly tickets, and other classmates for their recommendations and subscriptions. Chapter 164 The Savior Reserve Who Accompanies Him. In the Ravenclaw dormitory, Ryan's heart could not be calm for a long time. It can be seen from what Dumbledore said under the influence of the will of the God of Death that he should be the God of Death, or even his own ancestor. His views and words are not anti-human, nor do he think he is superior. That kind of existence. He believed that death was an integral part of nature and that all things would eventually die. Now, Ryan was vaguely certain about the identity of this God of Death. In only if this God really agrees with this principle, which is the unity of knowledge and action according to fantasy novels, can he influence Dumbledore, and even Nicholas Flamel, who has already been on the road to immortality for a long time. Ignatius Peverell should be his name, the third in the legend of the three brothers. The boss, Antioch Peverell, made the invincible Stick of Destiny and the Stick of Death as props for him to inherit the throne of death. His character should believe that power is greater than anything else. His elder wand also represents this, immortality, passed on to the strongest, and inherited in death. If he becomes the God of Death, he will always hold this position and pursue immortality. Cadmus Peverell, the second oldest, made the resurrection stone as a prop for his succession to the throne of death. He is even more arrogant, considering himself as a privileged class, and wants to play with the laws of nature and reincarnate from the dead. His resurrection stone also represents this, summoning the spirits of the afterlife and reversing yin and yang. If he, the third youngest, Ignatius Peverell, makes the invisibility cloak as a prop for his succession to the throne of death, he is the most humble, believing that everything will end in death, and he can just accept it when he has lived enough. His invisibility cloak also represents the same thing. Putting it on means immortality, but taking it off means facing death. I'm afraid even the position of the God of Death is nothing more than an invisibility cloak to him. After he became the God of Death, the powerful godlike ancient wizards gradually disappeared. Now even Nicolaine was influenced by him and chose to die. The story of the three brothers is more like a competition for the position of the God of Death. The third brother finally succeeded and inherited the position of God and the controller of the world after death. Closest to him in the beginning, he might have been closer to the boss, but in the end he got tired of the position of the God of Death and chose the third child who was most similar to himself. Now the afterlife under the control of Leosin is slightly reflected in the original work, that is, freedom. That world is more like the paradise in the legend, where healthy and kind souls can respond to requests. The mutilated and evil soul could only lie on the ground crying, unable to do anything. If you don't want to go to that world and you're a wizard, you can even refuse and become a ghost relying on the traces left behind in this world. Then, the taboo between Peverells not to kill each other was also set by him. In his eyes, mortals return to mortals, and divine beings return to spirits. As a result, His grandchildren had no son to inherit the Peveril surname, and their eldest daughter married into Potter with the invisibility cloak. This time, he showed some signs of it, presumably because he admitted to Peveril that Harry Potter displayed similar traits to his two older brothers. So he used Dumbledore's body to tell his descendants his warning. And Harry's words were spoken by Ryan using the traces he had left in Harry's body to rouse Harry's own thoughts. Ignatus Peveril was kind to both ordinary wizards and muggles, but he was ruthless to wizards who had the potential to become level 7. Longbottom and Smith, the descendants of the eldest, were descendants of divine wizards before they split up. In addition, the family atmosphere was keen on becoming stronger, so more than one of them must have been close to level 7, the realm of divine wizards. But these powerful ancestors were forced offline and moved to the afterlife. Longbottom began to become mediocre, and Smith gave up magic. He didn't even leave a book of enlightenment at home. He had been hiding and studying alchemy gradually declined under his influence. Perhaps in his view, the real world is a mortal world, and no one who is too awesome is allowed. If you are awesome, you have to ascend, that is, be taken offline and go to the afterlife. That's why, if Ryan knew nothing, he had felt the gaze before. Then, he could only die young and meet his ancestors. What he did, combined with the nature of the wizard, was actually towards justice, but Ryan didn't like it, or it hindered him. The second child was born under a love potion and was born unable to feel love, and even became a villain in the end. Why is the identity of the savior the third child? His descendants became the savior and finally multiplied descendants of the boss. If you know your mistakes, you should correct them. You are a good friend. You will also be given the opportunity to be the savior, but the priority must be given to your own descendants. Ignatus Peveril is terrifying to wizards who are aspiring to the gods and even pursue immortality. He combines knowledge with action and completely abides by his own soul. Such wizards, especially those who are still at level 7. In the history of magic, those wizards who have disappeared and can be called gods were not all driven to the afterlife by this terrible guy. Good guy, the world version of Harry Potter. Sure enough, the title of Savior is a test for the position of the new god of death. After the Savior obtains the Deathly Hallows, abandons them, and voluntarily dies for the sake of the world, he can become the new god of death. Ignatus, like the previous Grim Reaper, was tired and wanted to take off his invisibility cloak. However, Neville and Ryan, who had not become Horcruxes and were mentioned in the prophecy, were just running around. After all, they were not marked, did not have access to all the Deathly Hallows, and even if they died, they could not be resurrected like Harry through his relationship with Voldemort. Come on, you have to experience running with you again after traveling through time. Sure enough, there are people everywhere, Ryan thought after thinking. Chapter 165 The Wizard's Strange Passiveness. The time is 11 o'clock, in the Ravenclaw dormitory. Harry suddenly ran back, starting Ron, and causing Ryan's brain, which was running at full speed, to put down again and return to the mortal world. Harry, why are you back suddenly? Is it Filch or Snape? Ron sat up suddenly. Are you so sure I've been caught? Harry said angrily as he took off his invisibility cloak. How many points were deducted? Ron climbed onto Harry's clothes, taking Scabbers with him. No points. Harry pushed away Ron's face that was too close. It has to be said that wizards are good. Some wizards with strong potential who care about their clean and tidy appearance generally do not have bad breath or blackheads. Their subconscious mind will use magic to eliminate these things: odor, enlarged pores, bad breath, etc. No, this prevented Harry from complaining about Ron's bad breath, because he didn't have it in the first place. In this way, the name Mudblood is not entirely due to the fact that Muggles were very dirty in the Middle Ages. It is more due to their insufficient magical potential and the lack of good hygiene habits during that period, which resulted in heavy body odor and enlarged pores. However, even if they are all blackheads, bad breath, pure blood, it does not mean that they have good magical potential. There are also pure blood wizards in Slytherin who have the above-mentioned bad habits that Ryan just thought of. Otherwise, why did Ron always use trolls as a metaphor for most Slytherins in the original world line? They do have a troll version of slovenliness, just like their Dean Snape's hair is greasy all day long. There is also a situation where even if you have strong magical potential, you will be sloppy. That is lack of confidence in oneself, not caring about appearance at all, or mistakenly believing that these bad habits are normal physiological characteristics that everyone has. First, lack of confidence. It will not only cause the magic to work occasionally, but also make the person become sloppy. If one is depressed again, a muggle can still rely on exercise, good food and drink to adjust. If it is a wizard, it is tantamount to launching an uninterrupted curse on oneself. This is the case with Tom Riddle's mother Meripigund, who eventually led to his own death. As a wizard, she wasn't supposed to be like this. Second, wizards who don't care about appearance. They will only look the same as their muggle compatriots, and nothing else will matter. Third, this is mostly among muggle-born wizards. Weasley mistakenly thought that freckles were a part of their body, normal, and good-looking, which was the plus point. In conclusion, maintaining a good attitude and being clean are more reliable than learning any magic. Only 1 second has passed in the real world, and what just happened was just Ryan's inner fluctuations. No points deducted? Harry, did you find that the mirror was gone? Ron guessed. No, I was still caught. Harry said depressedly, and fell directly onto the bed without washing up. A student. Ron continued to guess. It's Professor Dumbledore, and he was here yesterday and stayed with us all night. Harry said fearfully. Merlin's beard. I told you we shouldn't go. Harry, if you listened to me, you wouldn't. Ron was interrupted by Harry before he could finish his words. Come on, if I don't go, I probably won't be able to see the mirror. Professor Dumbledore said that the mirror will be moved to a new place tomorrow. Harry said depressedly, and curled up in the quilt. Ah, what a pity, I haven't seen enough of my future. Scabbers, are you okay? Ron said angrily, waving his hand and almost hitting Scabbers. Next, Harry repeated what Dumbledore said, and Ron felt a little uncomfortable for some reason. It's not the future, it's the so-called desire. Should he be the captain too? Ron muttered in a low voice. Ron, what did you say? Although Harry didn't hear Ron's words clearly, he noticed his unhappiness from his expression. Nothing, I'm sleeping. Ron buried his head under the pillow and pulled down the curtain. During the remaining days of the Christmas holidays, Harry barely managed to stop thinking about the Mirror of Eris, but he still felt unhappy. And Ron was even weirder. From time to time he would suddenly become bad-tempered, just like him and, who was moody and angry. Harry used Ron's best wizard chest to attract him, but he could barely calm him down. Fortunately, Ron's sudden bad temper was easily dealt with as long as he had something to eat. This caused Harry's plan to study hard to be ruined by Ron multi-flavored beans, and kebabs that could be eaten in the lounge filled up the two of them's rest time. Finally, towards the end of Christmas, Harry found a new way to overcome Ron's bad temper by reading the comic book Doraemon. However, only the latest few new ones are effective. Ron had already read the previous book and it was of no use anymore. This made Harry hope that Skywalker Publish would a new book soon, and the much-anticipated Skywalker, Ryan, was lying on the bed. Apart from petting the cat and going home to look at the hamsters, he has been immersed in his own thoughts. The original Worldline Weasley twins developed a patented product in Harry's 6th grade, the Daydream Curse, which was nothing to Ryan. Just have hands. He plays stand-alone games in a world he created. Sometimes he is a knight in fine clothes and riding a horse with a sword, sometimes he is a captain traveling among the stars, and sometimes he becomes Harry Potter, playing a one-to-one immersive game. Finally, Christmas is coming to an end, and the return of Kate and Pinello also interrupts Ryan's degenerate life. He has to take time to spend time with them, and his life becomes abundant again. Harry, on the other hand, fell into more severe training than before. The next game was Ravenclaw vs Slytherin on the Saturday of the second week after Christmas. Although the time is now compared to Gryffindor, who will face Hufflepuff on the first Saturday of the first week after Christmas, they are still very generous. But Roger's absence, plus Captain Johnny, the wicket-keeper, and both batsmen are in 7th grade and will not be here next year. In order to better train Harry, all the players returned to school early and prepared to train Harry before the end of Christmas. As a result, Harry, who was regarded as the future captain, fell into the hell of studying and suffered from PTSD. The only good news is that Ron, who saw Harry being drilled, also gave up his desire to be the captain of the Quidditch team. If becoming captain is so difficult, then forget it, Ron thought when he saw Harry couldn't stand still. Chapter 166, Changes after the chapter. Changes after chapter 166. Before I knew it, Christmas was over. Harry finally escaped the hell of Quidditch and began to re-enter a plain but boring study life. However, after Christmas, Harry noticed the changes keenly. It was really strange. How could this happen in just 2 weeks of vacation? Dots on a piece of white paper. Hermione had been blushing suddenly for some reason recently. Second, the smell of Professor Quirrell. In the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Harry discovered that Professor Quirrell's smell was more layered. If the smell of garlic used to be mixed with the smell of rotten eggs, now there is also the smell of a smelly sock left to ferment in a basin for more than a week. His face became paler and his stuttering became more natural. Third, replace the broomstick used in flying lessons. During the flying lesson on Wednesday afternoon, Harry was surprised to find that the broomstick had been replaced by the first-generation Nimbus 1000 broomstick. Could it be that Mrs. Hooch really reported Dudley's damage to the broomstick and used this as an excuse? Request an update? At that time, when everyone asked, although Mrs. Hooch said nothing, everyone, except Harry himself, Ryan, Hermione, and others had a much better attitude towards Dudley. Needless to say why Harry is like this, but Ryan and Hermione must be because they are not interested in flying broomsticks. But Ron's performance made Harry feel a little uncomfortable. He obviously knew his relationship with Dudley very well. Harry, I haven't seen much damage to Dudley since he entered school. This is a Nimbus. I haven't even touched it. Ron defended his friendship with Dudley at that time. As for Harry's other roommates, Neville and Harry's fan Anthony, they didn't know much about Harry and Dudley's relationship, and Harry could barely understand it. But what added fuel to the fire was Dudley's performance. He was not proud of it and showed no bad qualities, which gave Harry no excuse to vent his anger. Even after class, he was kind enough to give him a replacement Christmas gift, a toy race car. He has also thoughtfully considered that Hogwarts electrical appliances cannot be used. This car relies on the machine expansion inside to operate. The little man can be inserted into the seat and rotated a few times, and it can fly several meters on the flat ground. This gift was something his aunt and uncle would never expect and would never give him. If Dudley hadn't become a wizard, he would have had a Christmas gift this year, not this reissue, but probably something like a 50-pence coin, which was cheap and didn't require a lot of effort. As for this toy race car, Harry knew very well that Dudley must have contributed to it. This made Harry unable to release his anger, so he had no choice but to devote himself to learning spells. In addition, Ron played with the car with interest. Ryan on the side, worthy of being Arthur Weasley's son. Ron actually has the same hobby as his father, as can be seen from his interest in photos that don't move. But on the other hand, for Arthur, he often spends money on Muggle items, even after being scolded by Molly. Interest in Quidditch and wizard chess, hobbies that could make money and be decent in the future. On the other side, Ryan also discovered something. Jack informed him through the Lord God that their potion sales channel had been temporarily blocked. The reason was that the potions professor at Hogwarts and the Dean of Slytherin felt that these potions are made quickly and well, but there may be quality issues. Good guy, people are sitting on the ground and pots are coming from the sky. This Snape probably doesn't know how many eyes Lord Ma has. So, Ryan took 10 minutes and worked overtime to create photos, all the photos of Lily Evans from childhood to adulthood, with James Potter pictured next to her, and a pouty version of the princess cut hairstyle like a harlequin. Snape, Fudge, who directly ordered the closure of the Ryan channel, was teleported to the wrong location when he used the portkey to take the bus home for private purposes. He was beaten by unknown righteous people in the wilderness and turned into a wild dog. It wasn't until almost 3 days later that the employees of the Ministry of Magic suddenly realized that their office efficiency was more efficient, that they discovered Fudge has disappeared and found his whereabouts at 3 o'clock in the night. Taking advantage of the closure of Lane's shop, they found themselves in trouble, being reported for no apparent reason and losing their jobs. This is the oldest card played by Smith. The seemingly unknown Smith did not even need Ryan to take action himself. The Minister of Magic and some powerful employees of the Ministry of Magic were just taken care of. This surprised even Ryan himself. Just when Fudge was transformed back into his original form and sent to St. Mungo's, and Snape tried every possible means to destroy James' existence in the photo, on the other side, Quirrell was also complaining to his master. Master, my salary was suddenly stopped. Why did I choose this time? I just gave Mungans a large sum of gold galleons. Quirrell looked pale. Did Dumbledore discover something? Don't worry, you have to understand how hypocritical and seemingly weak our main Dumbledore is, so much so that some cats and dogs dare to write on him and pee. This time it's just the Minister of Magic who is using administrative means to issue a test, and maybe my servant Lucius, who is not sure whether he is loyal or not, is involved. Besides, do you really think that Dumbledore didn't notice me? He just thought it would be better this way, so he could keep me under his nose. It's really ridiculous. Magic is power, and a lion can be coerced by a sheep. A cold and shrill voice came from Quirrell's body, but Quirrell's lips didn't move at all. But, Master, your humble servant can no longer buy those cheap and easy-to-use potions. Could it be that Dumbledore and Fudge team up? Quirrell said cautiously, and then was interrupted by the voice in his body. That's ridiculous, you idiot. There is no need for Dumbledore to do this. I know him very well. The mysterious voice said, but he had no idea that Dumbledore just wanted to arrange a meeting between Harry and Voldemort. Voldemort, who didn't know that Harry was his Horcrux, naturally couldn't have guessed it, especially since he knew Dumbledore very well and was dehumanized because of too many Horcruxes. Chapter 167. Quirrell can't hold himself back. Time, 3 o'clock in the morning, in the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor's office on the 4th floor. Then, Master, should we go to the Forbidden Forest to pick some magic potion? Your humble servant's magical ability is too weak to bear your presence. Quirrell begged, even if he was about to die. Luo begged. Luo still dared not make any unilateral decision, even if it was for his own life. Potion? Do you think you are Severus? Quillo, why don't you consider the blood of the unicorn? The mysterious voice sounded from Quirrell's body again. Unicorn? Blood? But, this is, cursed. Quirrell really started to stutter. What? As long as you have the magic stone, what curse are you afraid of after I, your master, come back to life? Quirrell, are your oaths that you want to help your master get the Philosopher's Stone from you all false? Or do you think I will fail again? Just like when I was attacked by that mudblood witch 10 years ago, same? You don't really believe it's Harry Potter, do you? The voice started to get angry. Quirrell also seemed to have been punished in some way. His whole body showed a painful expression, but he could not make a single sound. A trace of yellow liquid also leaked from the bottom of the wizard's robe. Luo, you'd better find an opportunity to give the dragon egg to Rubius as soon as possible. His schedule couldn't be simpler. Whenever he is free every day, he will go to the Pig's Head bar to drink. If you fail, you know your fate. The cold voice said cruelly, and then sneered. Quirrell was finally able to speak. The first voice in the office was the sound of gasping for air. I understand, Master, I will not fail. Quirrell then took out his wand and cleaned up the fluid from his body very naturally, very skillfully, as if it happened often. The next day, Ryan, who was checking the surveillance, called him a good guy. Ryan left a magic version of surveillance on Quirrell's body, and Ryan would look through everything about him when he had time. As for Dumbledore, he is not as weak as Voldemort. Ryan can only observe in real time and cannot leave any surveillance unnoticed by Dumbledore. However, unlike Voldemort, Ryan finally understood why his potion shop was sealed. It turns out that this was all done by Dumbledore. He probably just wanted to let Harry and Voldemort meet and confirm whether Voldemort knew that Harry was his Horcrux. It is estimated that Dumbledore also deliberately seemed to leave the school that day to give Voldemort time to commit the crime. Ryan couldn't help but feel silent for Snape. In this case, Snape might have been accidentally injured by him. On the other side, Dumbledore was also amazed at his own operations, how his mind was so smart. He originally doubted why there were so many cheap and high-quality potions on the market, which could mean many unknown wizards who could refine potions. This operation can be described as killing two birds with one stone, or more. Not only did he save a lot of gold galleons, but after Kylo's death, he also made a fortune after including the salary that he didn't have to pay back. Judging from Fudge's fate and Snape's reaction, that unknown force has considerable power in both the Ministry of Magic and Hogwarts. However, it seems that their purpose is just to make money for the time being, and their own intuition does not have any too negative reaction to them. Furthermore, this was a warning to Fudge. He had only asked Fudge to check it out, but he closed it directly out of his own selfishness, hoping to make a fortune. Fudge was still naive. If it was really so easy to be targeted, how could the low-end market of magic potions be easily occupied by that unknown force? In other words, after being the Minister of Magic for too long, he is no longer the same as before. In the principal's office, Dumbledore sighed deeply as he checked the relevant letters. Time passed quickly and it was the Saturday after Christmas. The Quidditch match between Ravenclaw and Slytherin was finally coming, and everyone who had watched Slytherin vs Gryffindor had gloomy expressions on their faces. In the previous games, The performance of Gryffindor's goalkeeper Wood and the batter's Weasley twins was undoubtedly good. However, Slytherin's seeker Terrence Higgins is too good. He is a 7th grader and has rich experience. He seems to be a more polite Slytherin player because he will follow the rules and don't seek to cheat. But according to Captain Johnny, he just hasn't met anyone who needs him to cheat, or there is no other place for cheating in the seeker position. Furthermore, their chasers Marcus Flint, Darian Pusey and Montaigne are all tall and big, like giant monsters. Coupled with their rough-playing monster style, players from other teams simply cannot stand it cause their collision. Even Miles Bleach, who sneak plays goalie, will up on people when he gets the chance, not to mention the batters Derek and Ball. The stick has simply become a weapon for them. They have inherited the tradition of previous Slytherins and prefer to hit people without fouling instead of hitting the ball. In 7th grade, the result of the game between Gryffindor and Slytherin would be decided. The Quidditch Cup belonged to her, but due to a foul committed by the opponent, she suffered a concussion and several broken ribs. From then on, it became her lifelong wish to see the Slytherin team lose miserably on the Quidditch field. In the few past years, Professor McGonagall has not attended every Quidditch match, but as long as there is a Slytherin team match, she will definitely make time to watch it, rain or shine. But this time, Roger's brief withdrawal from the Ravenclaw team made Johnny start to consider new candidates. After all, he still had 2 batters and the goalkeeper was in 7th grade. Among the new candidates, 2nd-year Chu Zhang is suitable, but her performance is more suitable for a seeker, and Harry is much better than her. As a chaser, she was skilled enough, but her body was too thin. As for other positions, Johnny has not found suitable candidates yet. During the period between Christmas and now, Captain Johnny and his team members have summarized the names, habits, and playing styles of every player in Slytherin, and solemnly presented them to Harry. In addition, every Slytherin player is a weapon. For Harry, who is thin, he may really have to use zigzag flying and sloth rolling this time. At the beginning of the game, Harry had to fly high into the sky and hide, waiting to find the golden snitch before entering the arena. In the locker room, Captain Johnny finished his summary, and Harry seemed calm after hearing this, but privately he felt as if his stomach was churning. Harry knew that he had no confidence at all. Happy New Year. Chapter 168 The Slytherin Who Recruited Evil. Time, Saturday, time 11:20. Ryan sat in the front row of the stands, speechless. He shouldn't have been noticed, but because of the permissions he gave Hermione, she was able to notice him. The first years of Ravenclaw usually went to and from get out of class together, so Ryan was pulled to sit in the front row, body squeezed over. Ron took 2 positions for Hagrid in advance, but it was not enough. No, Ron and Malfoy next to him were stuck together. I watched it in my hut last time, Hagrid said, patting the big telescope hanging around his neck. But the atmosphere was different from watching the game in the crowd. I was planning to come over, but the game ended. It's over. Thanks to you this time, Ron. And Slytherin, evil, well, Harry will definitely win. Hagrid patted Ron's shoulder gently, but Ron still couldn't stand it, and almost kissed Malfoy. This also made Hagrid discover Malfoy. He pursed his lips, but still did not say the word. For this competition, in addition to Ravenclaw and Slytherin who were supposed to be present, students from other colleges also rushed over. Professor McGonagall, who was monitoring the commentator Lee Jordan by the commentary desk, just glared at them and said nothing. But from the way Professor McGonagall couldn't help but curl her lips, it could be seen that she was even a little good guy. Is Slytherin so evil, or is it now that Voldemort has been on the streets for many years? You can't feel this from reading the book watched. At that time, Snape was not only a student of Slytherin, he also hung out with the Death Eater reserves. His friend also played an evil prank on Lily's friend. He didn't seem to have done anything, but when faced with Lily's questioning, he only cared about whether Lily had a good impression of James. After getting a negative answer, he left happily without any thought of leaving the group. Under those circumstances, it was so rare for Lily to never leave Snape. It's no wonder that whenever anyone mentioned her, they would praise her from head to toe. Sirius's behavior of finding trouble with Slytherin when he was in a bad mood seemed cool to others. At that time, Professor McGonagall only thought that Sirius and the others were just a little over the top, but they were still good students. Ryan couldn't help but feel a little lucky that he had traveled through time. At a certain moment, he wanted to go to Slytherin and do something showy and slap in the face. Fortunately, he didn't go. Slytherin was really full of black spots, the kind that couldn't be cleaned away. First of all, They don't follow the Slytherin code and are noble and cool like in fan fiction. The atmosphere in the entire academy is one of using whatever means necessary and only looking at the results and not to process extra points to his own students, and find excuses to deduct points from students in other houses instead of giving them no extra points. Just like that, they are already being tricked. What's more, in the Quidditch game, there are various loopholes in the game. It's better to say that it's a game than a beating complaint about those with troll blood. In the original world line, if Draco hadn't donated Nimbus 2001, he probably wouldn't have been able to be a Seeker. It's not that his skills are not good, it's that he doesn't fit in with the external image of the Slytherin Quidditch team. He's too young and not strong enough. Yes, you heard it right, normal Seekers are thin, but Slytherin is different, they only have to resist. In daily life, Slytherin now shows his dissatisfaction with Muggle-born wizards in an undisguised way. Especially now that Muggle-born wizards are the majority and they are the minority. In addition, some of the current Slytherins are descendants of Death Eaters, and they have done a lot of bad things. Although they have escaped the punishment of the law, others will remember them. With so many black spots, how could Slytherin not be black? No, at the beginning of the game, Mrs. Hoochivin made it clear that the Slytherin team would participate in the game fairly and honestly. While Ryan was immersed in his own world, Mrs. Hooch's whistle sounded and the game began. From the beginning of the game, it was a one-sided situation. This is not because Ravenclaw is weak, but because Slytherins are all rampant, and their cheating skills seem to be integrated into their souls, refined over time. Johnny from Ravenclaw grabbed the bludger. So fast, of being worthy of former Seeker, oops. It's Derek, Slytherin's beater, this is cheating. Jordan roared angrily. I'm sorry, I just blocked the ball from my own teammates. What's wrong? Derek grinned. The Slytherins cheered, but it was quickly covered up by the boos and curses from the other three houses. Mrs. Hooch signaled the game to continue. Derek wasn't cheating, at least it didn't look like him was. After that obvious and despicable act of cheating, Jordan said, Jordan. Professor McGonagall growled. I mean, after that public and offensive foul play, Jordan continued, Jordan, let me remind you, Professor McGonagall growled again, okay, Derek almost got the Gryffindor chaser killed, but the game goes on as Lee Jordan continued to comment outrageously. Harry is facing the toughest game of his life. Kayadan's commentary follows the chasers, but the Seekers generally don't mention it. This is a training that every commentator has before going on the field. Harry flew high into the sky at the beginning, prowling around like an eagle. This was one of the plans that had been made before, so that Harry would not be attacked early. To be honest, this is not a good decision. You must know that the golden snitch flies within the stadium. Snitch if the teammate, the batter who is responsible for interference and protection, is not strong enough, the enemy's Seeker will be able to get the golden snitch faster. No, because every Slytherin player seemed to be a living bludger, Ravenclaw's beaters Dennis and Woody had no time to interfere. This resulted in Slytherin's Seeker Terrence Higgins leisurely searching the grounds for signs of the golden snitch. Chapter 169 Another victory. The field was in full swing, and every Ravenclaw player was accidentally bumped into and hit by bludgers from time to time. But they all gritted their teeth and persisted, trying their best to avoid every Slytherin player around them, trying to fight for Captain Johnny's shooting opportunities while preventing Slytherin from scoring. Harry could see clearly. Suddenly, he saw Terrence, the Slytherin Seeker, suddenly rushing straight in one direction. Golden snitch? Harry could only follow closely. However, what Harry greeted was a bludger flying from his side. Harry, get out of the way. Even though the chaser Henry rushed over, he was knocked down hard and hit his head. Harry looked to the side and saw Ball, Slytherin's batter, and Terrence in front of Harry stopped. He didn't see the golden snitch at all. Ball and Terrence looked at each other and smiled. They did it deliberately and premeditated. Cheating. Ron stood up. Send him off, referee. Red card. Shouted Gryffindor's Dean Thomas, completely forgetting that this wasn't football. Mrs. Hokey blew the silver whistle, and the game was temporarily over. Ball fouled and Ravenclaw made a free throw, but Harry understood that this would not hurt Slytherin at all. If Harry was knocked down, the golden snitch would almost go to Slytherin. With 150 points, free throws are nothing. Woolen Cloth. The Slytherins in the crowd jeered. Henry was caught by a soft pad created by Professor McGonagall's transfiguration, but he was unable to compete at all. Just when everyone was nervous, A man came over from the stands. It was Roger. "Captain, let me come," Roger said with tears in his eyes. "Captain, I want to play Quidditch." "Johnny, come on like Davis, we can't lose," Henry murmured then. He was knocked down by Professor McGonagall's stun spell and was carried to the school doctor's office. "Okay, we must not lose this time." Captain Johnny agreed. "Everyone, do you believe me?" Roger continued, and everyone else agreed. After all, it was now, and Roger's tactics had already helped them win once. "Harry, everyone, for a while I, Johnny, and Phoenix will all follow Slytherin's chasers to prevent them from scoring. Is to pester them and give Harry a chance to find the golden snitch. If someone attacks Harry, we will just put down the task at hand and help Harry block it." Roger concluded 60 hours, and 10 minutes Montague got to quaffle. "What's going on?" "The Ravenclaw players are all tightly entangled with the Slytherin players." A golden stream of light flew past Flint's ear, and Harry saw the snitch. He felt excited and dived down, chasing that golden stream of light. Slytherin's seeker Terence Higgins also saw it. Terence's path and blocking possible attacks from other directions for Harry. The Slytherins tried to stop it, but it was too late. Then Harry stopped diving and raised his arms in triumph, the snitch firmly grasped in his hand. The stands were boiling. And at the same time Harry caught a golden snitch. Boom. Terence hit the Ravenclaw goalkeeper hard. You must know that the goalkeeper is often the strongest player among all players. He still fell heavily to the ground, and the goalkeeper, whose name Harry still didn't know, just rubbed his shoulders and grinned. The game ended in chaos. Ravenclaw committed a foul. Is a goalkeeper who leaves the goal still called a goalkeeper? 20 minutes later, Flint was still yelling angrily, but it had no effect at all. Ravenclaw did not violate any rules. Lee Jordan was still shouting the result of the game with joy. Ravenclaw won by 160 points to 60 points. Harry didn't hear any of this, though. He returned to Hagrid's hut with Ron and Draco, where the owner was making him a cup of strong tea. But the strange thing is that when we first arrived at the hut, all the curtains were tightly drawn, even though Hagrid was not at home just now. The heat in the cabin was stifling fireplace recklessly. When Hagrid was pouring tea, he saw with sharp eyes a big black egg lying in the center of the fire, under the kettle. Merlin's beard. I forgot to block it. Hagrid pulled off a handful of his beard. It's the egg of a Norwegian ridgeback. You? No, Hagrid, how did you get it? It's very rare, really rare. Obsessively. Got a dragon egg, you. Know your stuff. Hagrid stopped pretending that he couldn't see Draco. In his eyes, Slytherins are all bad people, and his father is a Death Eater, and he is the worst of the bad. But someone who knows and even loves dragons so well must be a good person. Why am I like this? Isn't it the same as Slytherin to discriminate against others? Hagrid thought this after communicating with Draco about the hatching of dragon eggs. Listen, I read it in Raising Dragons for Fun and Profit. It's very comprehensive. The eggs are put in the fire because their mother on them. When it hatches, feed it a bucket of brandy and chicken blood for half an hour. Hagrid took out a book from under the pillow and gestured to Malfoy, who still didn't want to call Draco by his first or last name. Brandy? No, 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 it shouldn't be like this. Brandy will only make the hatched dragon's flames more powerful and more aggressive. Tisk tisk, with all due respect, it's just the wooden house you live in. Draco frowned, but he didn't care about Hagrid calling him you. He did the same. Instead, he wondered where this rough guy could get such a precious dragon egg. Really? Hagrid took down his quill and wrote something in a notebook no bigger than his palm. He was about to continue asking questions, but was interrupted by Ron. Where did you get it, Hagrid? Ron also squatted by the fireplace, squeezing Draco with his body, looking jealous. After all, he was the one who met Hagrid first. It must have cost you a lot of money. I earned it, Hagrid said. Last night, I was drinking in the village and playing cards with a stranger. To be honest, the man was probably just dying to get rid of it. Draco frowned. During this period, Harry tried to persuade Hagrid to note that this was illegal, but Hagrid didn't listen at all. He was fiddling with the fire and humming a tune happily. He continued to ask Draco some questions from time to time. Thanks to classmate 202103011028756 for the monthly ticket, and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Draco's Tips. It's 13 o'clock, on the way back to the castle. Draco, why are you frowning all the time? Is it because of Hagrid? Harry finally couldn't help but asked. Absolutely. Draco gestured to Harry to stop talking and let him continue. I checked and found that it is indeed a Norwegian ridgeback egg, which is very strange. I've tolerated you for a long time. Is Hagrid still lying to us? Ron couldn't help but interjected. Come on, Weasley, doesn't your brother Charlie raise dragons? Why don't you understand? Harry grew up in the Muggle world, so I understand. Draco said sarcastically with a slight blush on his pale face. What, do you have any explanation? Harry asked curiously. Private trading of dragon eggs is not allowed. Have the dragon egg, no one dares to do anything against you. Draco added. Are those dark wizards crazy? Why don't they? Ron said. Why don't you take advantage of others? Dragon breeding is monopolized by Romania. That's why your brother Charlie can only leave his hometown to work. Dragon's whole body is full of treasures, even his blood. Dumbledore is famous for researching 12 uses of dragon blood. But, on the other hand, he was so rare in the British underground that Nocturne Alley made special provisions for the dragon and its anatomy. Britain, just like the ordinary Welsh green dragon and the Hebridean black dragon. I can tell you that the Ministry of Magic has a job to conceal the existence of these wild dragons. Our wizards have to often cast spells for muggles who see wild dragons. Also, Harry, anyone who can get the dragon egg understands its value and transaction methods. He must want to get something from Rubius Hagrid, and he has even got it. Draco concluded. Harry and Ron looked at each other, avoiding Draco, and made a sorcerer's stone mouth shape with their mouths. So the next day, after the afternoon charms class, Harry and Ron rushed to Hagrid's place after sending the Ravenclaw students to the lounge. You have something to ask me? Aren't you here to see the dragon egg? After a brief communication, Hagrid opened the door. Behind Hagrid, a figure they did not expect to appear again, Draco Malfoy. What, you didn't expect me to be here? What do you want to ask behind my back? Draco asked. Children, your problem is not related to Nico Flamel, is it? Hagrid suddenly thought of something and ignored Draco's presence. Yesterday and today's contact had already convinced him that Draco it's not about embryo. Oh, we figured out who he was hundreds of years ago. Ron said proudly. What, is this related to the Philosopher's Stone? Draco asked in surprise. Merlin's beard. How come you all know about it? Hagrid said angrily. Hagrid, please answer our question, which is related to the safety of the Philosopher's Stone. Harry said earnestly, and the hut was silent for a few minutes. Hagrid then said, well, since you, then I will. The Philosopher's Stone is in Hogwarts. Draco said in surprise again. Shut up, Malfoy. Ron glared at Draco to prevent Hagrid from changing his mind. Can you tell us, in addition to Lu Wei, whether Quirrell also participated in the organization that protects the Sorcerer's Stone? Harry asked directly. How do you know? This is secret number 1. Hagrid immediately changed his mind at Gringotts. I assume you know all about that. Hagrid, we just want to know if Quirrell has joined. This is very important. Harry held Hagrid's hand and stared at him with his green eyes. It reminded Hagrid of Lily, and of when Harry was a little kid and he took the traitor Sirius motorcycle to take him to his Muggle relatives. This made his already lax mouth loosen up again. Well, it's not a big deal. Quirrell is participating. Let me tell you again so that you don't dare to break in. Let me think about it. Dumbledore borrowed Fluffy from me, and then asked several other teachers to do magic. Professor Sprout, Professor Flitwick, Professor McGonagall he pulled counting on his thumb, Professor Snape, of course, Dumbledore did the magic himself. You are not worried that there is something wrong with Professor Quirrell? Hagrid looked like he suddenly realized it. With all due respect, as long as there is Dumbledore's magic, no wizard in this world can take anything from Hogwarts. Take that rock. You kids are worrying too much, Hagrid concluded. No, not this. Do you remember the night you played cards and won the Nobel? What did the stranger you played with look like? What did he ask you? Harry asked eagerly. A Ravenclaw has the courage? I'm sorry, Harry, Ron, I'm not targeting you. Hagrid laughed. Please answer me, please Hagrid. Harry shook Hagrid's left arm. Well, I don't know what it looks like. In the Pig's Head bar, most of the people there are wrapped in cloaks, which is unusual for a wizard like me. Hagrid replied, but judging from his speed, he probably got to the point. It's night. Did he mention Lu Wei and be particularly interested in it? So, Harry quickly asked the key point. Yes. Quite interesting. How many three-headed dogs can you meet, even near Hogwarts? So I told him that fluff is actually very easy to deal with. As long as you know how to use it, it calms down, plays some music to it, and it falls asleep immediately. A look of horror suddenly appeared on Hagrid's face. Damn. I shouldn't have told you this. The place where the stones are hidden is very dangerous. Even if you get past Louis's level, there are still other professors there. Hagrid said seriously as he gently broke away from Harry with his left arm. Big man, you're focusing on the wrong place. Malfoy reminded annoyingly, which disturbed his observation of the dragon egg. The point is, what you want most is a dragon, and a stranger happens to have a dragon egg in his pocket? How many people walk around with dragon eggs all day long? It's against wizarding laws. And he's also interested in Lu Wei. You suspect that person is Quirrell, right? Malfoy guessed. Chapter 171 Serious Hagrid. Adults often don't believe what children say. The reason is actually related to the fact that most children don't speak coherently. Just like the original world line, the trio of Harry, Ron, and Hermione are preparing to ask Professor McGonagall about Dumbledore's whereabouts. At that time, Harry also wanted to tell Professor McGonagall that someone wanted to steal the Sorcerer's Stone. But at that point, Harry just said he thought someone was going to steal the Philosopher's Stone. Why he thought it, the reason, and what he was worried about were not mentioned at all. Of course, this may be to cover up Hagrid's accidental disclosure of Fluffy's weakness, but Harry could also say that the three-headed dog Fluffy's weakness was known to others. Nep was bitten by a three-headed dog. If Harry had said this, Professor McGonagall would have at least mentioned that they all knew about Snape's bite, and that no one could break Dumbledore's defense. Professor McGonagall might even go check it out in person and try to contact Dumbledore to come back and deal with it. Originally, Harry himself didn't even understand the world line, so he just sorted out the cause and effect relationship and went rash. In fact, even if Harry did nothing, Voldemort would not be able to take out the Sorcerer's Stone through the Mirror of Eris. But this time, Harry and Draco's words made Hagrid discover the strange origin of the dragon egg, and he had revealed Lu Wei's weakness. But out of blind faith in the defense line set up by Dumbledore, Hagrid was temporarily prepared to ask a few more questions before going to Dumbledore. Harry, do you really think the wizard who gave me the dragon egg was Quirrell? Hagrid regained his composure, looking suspicious. Hagrid, do you remember that I knocked down Quirrell twice in the defense against the dark arts class? Harry looked at Hagrid, who stroked his beard and thought, I remember, Harry, just used to the red spark, right? The little wizard is in the wild, a spell that indicates he is in danger. Yes, Professor Dumbledore once said that my mutant red spark's function is to purify the curse. Harry explained. When Hagrid heard about Dumbledore, he immediately became solemn. Everyone else is fine, but only Quirrell fainted. I very much suspect that Quirrell was controlled by a curse. Harry continued to emphasize, and Ron also tightened his face. Come on, are you all confused? How did you get into Ravenclaw? Draco said sarcastically after listening carefully. Dumbledore is the greatest white wizard. He has pointed out the effects of his curse. How could he not know that Professor Quirrell is being coerced by the curse? Time. If I were the dark wizard who controlled Quirrell, I would definitely cause trouble and make Dumbledore have to leave school for a while. Draco said, crossing his arms. He stood by the fireplace and observed the dragon eggs from time to time. As expected of Malfoy, this kind of thinking is probably only possessed by a Slytherin like you. It's amazing. Ron said with admiration, but it was actually a mockery of Draco. Just as Draco was about to reply, he was interrupted by Hagrid. Okay, kids. You know enough, the little devil of the Malfoy family said. Dumbledore must have his own ideas. Don't reveal any information about this matter to others when you go back, so as not to interrupt Dumbledore's plan to save Quirrell. Hagrid admonished, I'm going to find Professor Dumbledore. In his mind, Quirrell could certainly be trusted, as he had been a Muggle studies professor. This position is different from Defense Against the Dark Arts, a course that the professor changes every year. It is a long-term position. As long as you don't make mistakes, you can work for a lifetime. See Quirrell brains, so he wouldn't make his own decisions on matters arranged by Dumbledore. Slightly red, said as he walked to Hogwarts Castle. Ron, keep your voice down, we promised Hagrid. Harry suddenly stopped, and Malfoy turned around and said, come on, Harry came up with this, I prompted it. You said what can you tell me about? Weasley. You annoying Malfoy, you're only doing this because only dark wizards can understand dark wizards. Harry and I are Ravenclaws who represent wisdom. The reason why we can't think of it is just because we are not like you. Ron growled, and Harry quickly grabbed Ron. Shut up, Ron, Draco is not like that. Come on, are you just a Ravenclaw who followed Harry and told me your wisdom? How could you not think of Dumbledore's idea? Surprisingly, Malfoy was not angry, he said calmly and sarcastically. Harry, Malfoy came to Hagrid before us this time. He must have discovered that we were avoiding him yesterday. He also discovered that the reason why we were avoiding him was related to Hagrid. After all, he is so smart, no, insidious. Ron blushed and continued to look for Malfoy. Come on, Ron, haven't you noticed that Draco's attention has been on the dragon egg? Harry said helplessly, showing an apologetic expression to Draco. At this time, Hagrid walked towards Dumbledore's office anxiously. This time he was so worried that when Filch pestered him, he didn't scold him back as usual, which left Filch confused. Soon Hagrid arrived on the 8th floor of Hogwarts. He said to the stone monster, Lemon Olive. The stone monster jumped aside, and the wall behind it cracked in half, revealing a movable spiral staircase. He felt that the stairs in Dumbledore's office were convenient. He didn't have to climb them and had time to think about what to say. However, before he could wait, Hagrid knocked on the door, and Dumbledore's voice rang out, I was still wondering when you would come to me, Rubeus. Hagrid stood there blankly, unable to recover for a long time. I'm updating again today. I'd like to thank Taishi Yumaksu and Yuchi Jinayan for giving me monthly tickets again. I often see your two names. I am very grateful for the recommendations and subscriptions from other classmates, even if I don't have any inside information. With your support, I would never give up on this book. Chapter 172 Busy Harry. What every student, especially those who have made mistakes, fears most is going to the office. Although Hagrid dropped out of school in the 3rd grade, in his own opinion, he has always been Dumbledore's student until now, a father figure to him. But now, because of his drinking, he revealed Lu Wei's weakness. When he came to the office and was about to tell Dumbledore, he already knew it. It's over, barbecue. Why don't you come in, Rubeus? Dumbledore's voice sounded again. Although his voice was calm and gave people a feeling of spring breeze, to the current Hagrid, it was like the sound of a death knell. Good evening, sir, Hagrid said timidly. What's wrong, Rube? It's dinner time, why don't you come here after eating? Dumbledore said again, but Hagrid was not surprised at all that Dumbledore knew that he had not eaten. Dumbledore always knew what he should know. Hagrid knew very well that he could not use his own wisdom to speculate on the great Dumbledore. The most important thing now is to reveal the secret. Professor, I have something to say. Hagrid mustered up his courage to walk into the principal's office. Dumbledore was sitting at his desk, which was full of food. The most eye-catching thing was a plate of mint candies. Only Dumbledore could make this combination. Hagrid's stomach involuntarily sounded the horn of hunger. He swallowed and focused on the portraits of the former principals on the wall of the principal's office. The old principals in the portraits on the wall were all awake and quietly eavesdropping on their conversations. A fat wizard with a red nose also took out a hearing aid. Oh, I have my own arrangements for Quirrell, that's all, Rubeus. Dumbledore looked enigmatic, staring at Hagrid with his light blue eyes. Hagrid struggled for a moment and finally said, Harry, Ron and the Malfoy brats know about the Philosopher's Stone. They made me aware of the secret I revealed. Professor, I hope you can keep an eye on them to prevent the 3 of them from being bold enough to break into the restricted area on the 4th floor. Yeah, Rube, I get it. Why don't you stay and have dinner before leaving? Dumbledore agreed and then invited Hagrid. Without any movement from him, there was an extra piece of food on the table, and a huge chair beside the table that was difficult for ordinary people to sit on. After Harry once again played a key role in winning the 2nd victory, the players of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team began to feel for the first time that winning the Quidditch Cup was no longer just a slogan. Harry's popularity in Hogwarts has become high again. In the words of the entertainment industry, it is like that of an old actor who has risen to the top after many ups and downs. Fortunately, They all have a good habit of going out early, so being late for class is probably inevitable. But Harry received not all praise, but also the slander that accompanied the honor. The Slytherin team, in addition to their dirty tricks on the field, also had more tricks outside the game. One is to create bad rumors about Harry and try to influence him psychologically. But this was of little use to Harry, who is now enjoying a great reputation. In addition, they forgot about Kate, Rita Skeeter-I of Ravenclaw. Although Harry had offended Kate before, Harry was a student of Ravenclaw after all, and even he was still a Ravenclaw in this academic year. Hopes of the Quidditch Cup. Therefore, not long after their action of cyber-violating Harry started, the identity of the leader behind it wasn't spread exposed everywhere. Professor Snape was also particularly angry this time and put these students in solitary confinement for a semester, deducting a total of 12 points. According to Draco, this is not a favoritism. According to their headmaster's usual situation, he would probably only deduct 1 or 2 points and arrange a relaxing confinement. But this time, 12 points were deducted. The confinement content of these students was also to deal with some disgusting potion materials kind of rhetoric. Opened Ron's eyes. It's no wonder that Slytherin has won the Academy Cup for 7 consecutive years. So, Slytherin's re-election is also related to Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, who don't care about it, but Gryffindor cares about it. They have a strict head of house. As his brothers are both Gryffindors, Ron knows this very well. Professor McGonagall was almost the opposite of Snape. She deducted the most points from her own school, often giving 7 or 8 points, sometimes even 50 points. As for students from other colleges, she rarely overstepped her authority and always called her deans to handle the matter. When Professor Flitwick and Professor Sprout encounter this kind of situation, they usually deal with it emphatically. But Snape was always shameless and unshamed, not deducting points and using confinement as punishment. What a great guy. Secondly, Slytherins also like to carry out sneak attacks outside the stadium. Although Harry has been with his first-year students on weekdays, coupled with his demonstrated level of magic, and Snape's strict handling of previous incidents, it should not be a problem. But Captain Johnny specially arranged for several senior students to take turns accompanying Harry to and from getting out of class to prevent him from being alone or being attacked by surprise. Roger has recently returned to the team, and this time the training he does is no longer just a matter of words. Of the 3 trainings a week, only the first training of the week was tactical training, and the rest were actual combat exercises. However, he refused the position of acting captain, and Harry felt very pressured. Because, when the captain was mentioned, including Roger, he stared at Harry, and the meaning was naturally beyond words. All of this also made Harry temporarily forget about the Sorcerer's Stone and the Dragon Egg. In his opinion, the Dragon Egg had probably been given to Dumbledore, which also prevented him from paying attention to Draco, who disappeared alone every night during dinner time. After all, Draco was in another house, and they only had herbology classes together. Just when Harry was obsessed with studying and spent all his spare time practicing Quidditch, an unexpected thing happened. One day at breakfast, Hedwig brought Harry another note from Hagrid. There are only 4 words written on it: almost hatching. Chapter 173, The Hatch, Norwegian Ridgeback. Today is Friday, and there is only one potions class in the morning. Harry, why is potions class today? Talking. Harry quickly blocked Ron's mouth with a sausage. The key now is that the dragon egg is still in Hagrid's hand. Does this mean that Hagrid didn't tell Dumbledore our concerns at all? Leto, no, it shouldn't be. Could it be that it was Dumbledore's instruction that we at Hogwarts want to get rid of Romania's monopoly on dragon breeding? Maybe Hagrid simply concealed the existence of dragon eggs. Harry frowned. His friend Hagrid didn't expect that Harry could see so much in just one letter. Then Charlie will go back to the UK to work, Ron said in surprise. Although his other brothers were also kind to him, the Weasley twins pranked Ron when they saw him in a low mood and amused Ron's attention by being embarrassed by the prank. Percy saw that Ron had no pets, so he deliberately Scabbers, who were brought up by him, were given to Ron. Bill and Ron were too far apart in age and had not lived together much. But only Charlie is the best brother in Ron's heart. He is Gryffindor's talented seeker, and if he hadn't studied dragons, he would have definitely represented the British team in the competition. As a Quidditch fan, Ron's status in his heart can be imagined. And Charlie also values his little brother very much. As a wizard's second life wand, Charlie was also willing to replace it, and deliberately left his old wand intact to Ron. In the original world line, If Ron hadn't hit the Whomping Willow in a flying car, this one would probably have stayed with Ron for the rest of his life. Harry didn't care at all about the joy in Ron's eyes at this time. His mind had been lingering on the dragon egg and the Sorcerer's Stone. This made Harry misinterpret Ron's expression, and he mistakenly thought that Ron was going to skip class. "Ron, you are crazy. We have to go to class, otherwise we will get into trouble, and people will find out that Hagrid is doing this. He will be more unlucky than us." Ron is indeed Ron. Ryan, who is listening openly, did not expect that Ron would actually say this because of Harry's words. "Harry, you mean skipping class?" "That's right. Harry, you are Snape's favorite disciple. You just need to say a few words and we can go see the dragon eggs." As for the outcome, Harry naturally refused righteously. So in the potions class, Snape saw this scene. Lily's continuation in his eyes was frowning, while the red-haired monster Ron next to him couldn't hide his excitement and looked very happy. Then Ron was attacked by Snape's venomous tongue with an innocent look on his face. "I think the sorting hat is broken, your sphinx-filled head. Do you want to put it on again and go to Hufflepuff?" "I don't think Hufflepuff will want him." During Dudley suddenly shouted the time Dudley was in Hufflepuff, he had already regarded Hufflepuff's honor as more important than his own face. What Ryan found most interesting was that it was Snape who indirectly insulted Hufflepuff. Dudley and the other Hufflepuffs took out more of their emotions on Ron. After Dudley finished speaking, the other Hufflepuffs also looked outraged. Even Hannah and Ernie, who had spoken a few words with Ron and had a good relationship, looked unhappy. Snape acted as if he didn't hear him. Dudley was a relative on Lily's side after all and stiff compliments. In his eyes, Professor Snape, who was trying to squeeze out a concerned expression from his pale face, and his brother Ron, who looked aggrieved, suddenly appeared. All this suddenly made Harry almost stir the potion once more, but fortunately, his superb potion skills saved him. Otherwise, there will only be a small-scale explosion, and besides himself, the only one who will suffer is Ron next to him. Finally, in this anxious atmosphere, the class finally ended. Harry quickly found Anthony, who is the most prestigious among the first-year students besides himself, and told him that he would not lead them back to the lounge this time, and asked them to follow the senior students back to the lounge to avoid meeting Pippi Ghost. Hermione actually has more prestige among the first-year students. The habit of being a teacher she brought from the Muggle world is like a good person giving porridge to hungry people in Ravenclaw. But now Hermione is always with Ryan, and for some reason, he doesn't want Ryan to know. Ryan is not an ordinary wizard. He may have the ability to take away the magic stone from the forbidden area on the 4th floor. Harry feels that he cannot take this risk. Human nature cannot stand the test. He doesn't want to lose Ryan as a friend in him, the mentor who hopes to get the resurrection stone in the future. So, Ryan, who had no presence next to Hermione, smiled evilly and looked at Harry, who was hurriedly pulling Ron and running out of the castle. How naive! As long as they were in school, Harry and the others would not be able to escape his sight, Ryan thought as he noticed Harry's little thoughts. In Ryan's sight, Harry and Ron first left the castle, then hurried across the field, towards the edge of the forest forbidden area. Hagrid greeted them, his face glowing with excitement. "It's almost out." He led them into the hut. "Hagrid, close the doors and windows. Don't be careful about being seen." Draco's voice suddenly sounded from behind Hagrid, who was pressing his face tightly against an egg with a deep crack on a table, and something was moving inside, making a funny clicking sound. Draco's appearance was not unexpected by Harry. When Harry knew that the dragon egg was still there, he already understood where Draco went after disappearing alone every night. Although Ron didn't understand, out of curiosity about the dragon egg, he didn't question why Draco was here. He just sealed the hut firmly under the command of Hagrid, who had regained consciousness. Then they all moved their chairs closer to the table and watched closely, holding their breath. Suddenly, with a harsh scratching sound, the egg cracked. A creature with spiny wings, black overall, and a long nose fluttered on the table. This is the Norwegian Ridgeback. It looks like a wrinkled black umbrella, with white nostrils, horn bumps on its head, and orange-red eyes protruding outwards. Then he sneezed, and a few sparks came out of his nose. Chapter 174 Ron was bitten. Dragons had been something Harry had heard about since he thought he was just a muggle. In most stories, they are scaly reptiles with snake-like tails and bat wings that spit venom or fire. Like witches in fairy tales, they are often synonymous with evil and greed. Dragons destroy human dwellings and take rares for themselves. It is synonymous with power, majesty and solemnity. Those who can kill it are called warriors and are recorded in myths and stories passed down from generation to generation. But the creature that appeared in front of Harry only gave Harry the feeling that it was ugly. Is Draco obsessed with such a creature? He even didn't hesitate to befriend Hagrid, the warden of the Forbidden Forest whom he despised. It's beautiful, isn't it? Hagrid murmured. He stretched out a hand and touched the little dragon's head. Gosh, look, it knows its mother, said Hagrid. Hagrid, are you wearing some invisible dragon skin gloves on your hands? Malfoy, who was also obsessed with dragons but knew how much of a threat they were, said from a short distance away. But Harry was very surprised when Draco was willing to call Hagrid by his name instead of big man or you. As for Ron, before Hagrid could, he was so confident that he imitated Hagrid and approached the dragon with his hand. Come on, Malfoy, are you so shy? Don't you like dragons? Ouch! It bit me. Suddenly, Ron screamed, and Ron's right hand was already dripping with blood. Healed as before. Harry read, and Ron couldn't help but look surprised. Harry, why are you? We have never learned this spell. The wound on Ron's right hand healed immediately, but the healed wound burst open again in the next second, but this time there was no bleeding. Then the wound turned an ugly green color. Ron, don't you feel pain? You don't have time to worry about how I did it. Harry frowned and wanted to give Ron another shot. The wound bitten by the Norwegian Ridgeback will add toxins that prevent healing. Well, it seems that it also has an anesthetic effect. Weasley, this is the first time I find you so useful. You have given me new knowledge about dragons. Malfoy circled Ron's right hand and observed, Harry, your spell has accelerated that of the wound turning green. What should we do? I'll go find Madame Pomfrey, Harry said anxiously, but Ron stopped him. Is it appropriate for us to go find Madame Pomfrey? Will she see that this is a dragon attack? Bite. It's not fatal, but you'll probably find the bitten hand swollen to twice its original size the next day. If you take it hard, it will probably take about a month. Draco said with a speed smile, and turned his attention to the dragon again, just like Hagrid, who had not turned his attention away from the dragon until now. Wait, a month? This isn't with Snape. Ron shut up mid-sentence. Come on, Draco already knows that. Professor Snape was bitten by a three-headed dog before, and he was the same way. No, it's a little different. Professor Snape's wound healed most of the time. Harry. Draco explained to him, who raised his eyebrows and turned his head. According to what you said, that's different. Professor Snape is a professor of potions. He has no shortage of potions to treat wounds. This is equivalent to using potions with the help of another month. The bite of a three-headed dog can be that's amazing. Draco touched his chin, thinking. Ron, what's wrong with your hand? Hagrid suddenly asked in surprise. Nothing, I was bitten by your precious dragon. Ron said angrily. Oh, that's awesome. How about calling you Norbert? Oh, I almost forgot. Ron, are you okay? Hagrid was happy at first, then he woke up from a dream and said. Nothing. Ron said sarcastically, and then Hagrid really took it seriously and teased the little dragon again. Ron looked very surprised and a little angry. However, he didn't know that in the original world line, he was also bitten by Norbert, and Hagrid didn't take it seriously at that time. After all, in his opinion, it would be better to just sleep for this minor injury. This is also Hagrid's only incompetence as a professor of magical biology. He misestimated the danger of magical creatures and mistook the young wizard for his previous self of the same age. Hagrid, it's a female dragon. If you really want to call it, you should call it Norberta. Draco corrected, completely ignoring Ron, who kept emphasizing that his hand was injured. Draco, how did you tell? Hagrid asked curiously, and Draco explained, the male Norwegian Ridgeback does not have so many spikes on its wings, and its nose will be shorter. Hagrid quickly took out his palm-sized notebook again and started to write down. Harry also forgot that Ron was bitten at this time. I have noticed that now even Hagrid started calling Draco's name. Only Ron kept repeating, my hand. Hey, guess what, brother? Why can't I hold a pen and write for the next month? Finally, when the three of them were about to leave Hagrid's hut, Harry realized the real purpose of his hurry. Hagrid, didn't you tell Professor Dumbledore about Quirrell? Harry said eagerly. Hagrid fed chicken blood to the little dragon and replied, yes. Speaking, his face under his beard became kind again, towards Ziada Long. What? About the dragon egg. Harry discovered the blind spot keenly, and his insight was not limited to the golden snitch. Well, I was so nervous, I forgot. But I've said everything else that needs to be said, so just leave it alone. Hagrid said angrily, and then issued an order to expel the guests. On the way back to the castle, Ron was still aggrieved. Isn't he trying to burn barrages? How can he raise a dragon in his little wooden house? And my hands. You can use the water and fire protection charm, a common spell that all raising dragon experts must learn. Harry thought, and then suddenly stopped. Charlie. Charlie is my brother's name, and my name is Ron. Ron blinked in confusion, and then suddenly realized, why, let me write to Charlie and ask how to treat this wound? Or let me ask me for advice. Fire invulnerability spell. That's right. Charlie is an expert on dragons, Harry, as expected of you. Ron jumped up excitedly, but I need you to write this letter for me. Weasley, how did you get into Ravenclaw? Harry's intention is obviously to let Charlie take the dragon away before the dragon is discovered. Draco said sarcastically. Judging from his unhappy expression, he was still very angry that Hagrid also kicked him out of the hut. That's it. Harry laughed dryly. He sensed Draco's dissatisfaction with Hagrid, but this time he couldn't say anything. Even Harry himself was a little unhappy with Hagrid. Chapter 175 A Little Angry Ryan. The next day, since today was Saturday, it was already 8 o'clock. Most people in the Ravenclaw dormitory were still asleep, and Ryan seemed to be the same. Harry and Ron got up early. As Draco expected, Ron's hand was swollen like a pig's trotter. If Ron, who is now a Ravenclaw, had not developed the habit of completing the day's homework in the evening after class every day, with his current skills, without the help of others, he would not be able to handle the homework. Ravenclaw's score. It cannot be said that this will cause fluctuations. Suddenly, there was a humming sound from the corner of the wall, where Ryan's bed was, which started Harry and Ron. However, after almost a minute, there was no movement. Harry breathed a sigh of relief, took Ron's intact left hand and quickly left the bedroom. Without washing up, he just changed clothes casually. After leaving the Ravenclaw common room, Draco was already waiting impatiently on the 6th floor. Crabbe and Goyle were still not with him. This is not because the relationship between them has become estranged. On the contrary, since the troll incident, Draco and them have become more like real friends, rather than the original combination of the young master and the two followers. In Draco's eyes, his two friends are not obsessed with dragons, and they are not interested in Ron and Harry either. To force them to join this team that makes them uncomfortable, they might as well just let them sleep in or hide in the lounge to play gobstone. On the other side, after Draco, Harry, and Ron met up, they hurriedly walked outside the castle, the Hagrid's cabin that had been tightly closed in the past few days. After a while, they arrived at today's destination. Their purpose today was to persuade Hagrid to send the dragon away and hand it over to Charlie. With this purpose in mind, Harry stood in front of the door for almost a minute, not knowing what Hagrid's reaction would be, and then gently knocked on the door. Then, Hagrid's panicked voice came from inside the door. "Who is it?" After Harry answered, he slowly opened the door and looked out through the crack in the door with his little black eyes. After confirming that there were only 3 of them, Harry hurriedly pulled them into the cabin before the 3 of them could exchange a few words. "Probably placed in another place not far away. Poor Tooth, he's been outside since Norberta arrived." It is true that being fond of the new and hating the old is not a common problem among scumbag men and scumbag women. Even Hagrid, a tall man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, who seems to be honest, also has this problem. Harry didn't have time to feel silent for Tooth, so he quickly told him the plan he had thought of on the way back to the castle yesterday. "I can't," said Hagrid. "It's too small and will die." This little guy who Hagrid said would die easily was stretching his neck, baring his teeth and claws. The blood stains on its teeth all showed that it was a ferocious predator. After not seeing it for a day, it was slightly larger than yesterday. If it had been here all the time, Hagrid would inevitably have to accept a day trip to Azkaban. "Hagrid, I'm talking about Charlie, he's an expert on dragons." Harry emphasized. Hagrid, on the other hand, hummed a little tune and pretended not to hear. "I have pricked a dead chicken and bled it into the basin tidy, but now, for the sake of this dragon, Hagrid actually let his beloved house be in a mess, and he didn't care at all." At this moment, he finally understood that sending Norberta away might not be as easy as he thought. What Harry didn't know was that Hagrid in the original world line was such a person. If the dragon hadn't been seen by Malfoy, Hagrid would never have given the dragon to Charlie. In fact, It can be seen from Hagrid's previous behavior. After all, Hagrid dared to keep a three-headed dog that was more dangerous than a giant dragon. In Hagrid's opinion, the Norwegian Ridgeback is just another three-headed dog. At worst, it will be kept in the Forbidden Forest, just like he kept the Acromantula Aragog and his younger brother, the giant Grop, in the Forbidden Forest. But in this way, Hagrid is not too arrogant. The origin of the three-headed dog was a Greek guy who lost to him in a card game. This should also be why Hagrid did not suspect the ulterior motives of the person who gave him the dragon egg at first. On the other side, Harry and Draco looked at each other, and Draco stepped forward. "Hagrid, are you going to let Norberta live in this cabin for the rest of her life? Even if you raise her in the Forbidden Forest later, what if she escapes and hurts the little wizard?" Draco said from Norberta's perspective. "Just like my right hand, what if I bite the neck? This will cause trouble for Dumbledore." Ron also regained his head and said, waving his swollen right hand, "If you leave it to Charlie, she will grow up with her kind there, instead of being alone like this." Harry also followed Draco and Ron's words to find out. Harry's words wanted to overwhelm the last straw of Hagrid's psychological defense. I know I can't keep it forever, no, my little princess, Norberta. Norberta. Where is Mom? Look, she can still nod." Hagrid turned his head, but Harry and others remained unmoved. "Well, you can write a letter to Charlie. You can go. And you, little devil of the Malfoy family, leave the rest of the time to me and Norberta. Unless Charlie writes, don't come here." One noticed, Ryan was like a ghost, floating in the sky above the little dragon. To be honest, Ryan could understand why Harry wanted to hide this from him. When Harry knew that Ryan also knew about the Sorcerer's Stone and the three-headed dog, Harry thought everything else he couldn't even hide it from Ryan. He probably thought Ryan would try to take away the Philosopher's Stone quietly. Ryan even childishly pretended to talk in their sleep to scare them. Originally, Ryan was prepared to kill Quirrell under Dumbledore's plan when he attacked the unicorn slightly unexpectedly. But now, Ryan decided to wait for Quirrell to leave before saving the unicorn. He has such ability. And Harry is just like the original world line. Let's have a chance to touch the enhanced version of Quirrell after sucking the blood of the unicorn. Ryan believes that Harry has such strength. Pretend. Philosopher's Stone, by the way, before Quirrell broke into the restricted area. This was also to take revenge on Dumbledore for affecting the sales of Ryan's potion. That's it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.